And welcome everyone. Let me do a sound check and make sure everyone's hearing me and we'll be good to go. All right, sounds like everything is working as it should. So, welcome to Monday. Hey, today's January 27th for those who are here live. Oh, it's been a nice weekend, but we're back at it and it definitely feels like a Monday to me. But I want to say hello to everyone and thanks for being here. And if you're on the replay, thanks for being here as well. Um, Before we get started, please everyone ensure that you hit the like. I'd appreciate that. We got a lot to get into, and I'm not really looking forward to it, but we got to do what we got to do. So let's see if first things first, I can welcome our viewers here in the live chat. That'd be nice, right? So we're going to say, let's see who's here. The Court of Public Opinion. Welcome, sir. Good to see you. Bex was here, and Amy's here. Thank you, Amy. Fur Baby Daddy, Birdie81, Mark Ellis, Nature Loving Lady, Sweet Dude Shibby, Miss K from Wisconsin, 26 Dead Zombies, Asphalt Sally, Heavy Metal Rehab. We got Rhonda Holton. All right. Nico. I don't know if I said who's your daddy 11 or not, but he's here. We got Dawn Steele, Digital, Jamie Boyd. Welcome. Uh, what else we got? Deb, Oleg Cat, Deputy Dog, Ben Aaron. We got Nicole Watt, Goddess, Bella's in Wonderland, Jamie Blair. Wait, did I already say hello? Brenda Mays, Trial Junkie. All right. Dennis McKean. We got Jackie from Terre Haute. We got Aaron Town, Nancy Drew 101, Jalen, Rebecca Ann 1965. Go subscribe. Steph Mama. We got Carly Johnson, Judith Galloway, Gretchen Allen. Oh, I already said hi. Okay. TJ Bits and Shirley Clifford. All right. Appreciate everyone for being here. Welcome, Star Crazed. If you're in the Lurker crew, please join the chat. The live chat loves you. So please join the live chat. We got a lot to get into, and it's pretty disturbing, pretty much. So welcome, everyone. Wow, wow, wow. All right. Be aware that we have two channels. The main channel is called The Prof, and we got The Prof True Crime, little backup channel. So please do what you can to support both channels. Appreciate it. We got different community pages on each channel. So be sure to check out the community pages on both channels because you will find different things. Um, anyway, what's up, Mama J and Asha Harry? Thank you for joining the live chat. Today we'll be talking about the testimony of Brian Harshman, and there's a lot to it. There really is. And so I hope that you'll enjoy reviewing some of that and my take on it. What else would I say? Well, there's a lot to it. So we'll get into it, but I guess let's see if I can manage this because I don't like doing this on the fly. But let's see. Okay, so let's see. It's not going to be that one. Let's try this one. All right. Listen, before we go too far, let me see if I got this together. No. Okay. Listen, I'll just read it. You don't need to necessarily see it. But there's a lot to it. So you might say, Prof, why in the hell do you care about Brian Harshman? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Brian Harshman, well, okay, let me start like this. I believe that Brian Harshman was the deciding factor when it came to this jury. And it may seem like a stretch because there was so much, and this trial did last many days, and there were many insane witnesses and points that the prosecutor tried to bring up. Um, but what really did it for me, because I had always been really suspicious of Brian Harshman, mainly due to the testimony he had given before trial regarding these alleged 65 confessions. And that was already disturbing. Okay. But what really did it for me was this juror, because this juror said um, something that it just left me stunned, you know, and it's caused me to realize over time that this was the deciding factor or determining factor in guilt for this jury. Okay. Um, now you may ask why. Well, let's review some of the words of this one juror who did come out to speak. Okay. So this juror said. So this juror was prodded with this question. One witness that stood out to our juror in particular was Master Trooper Brian Harshman. And here's what she says. I really like Harshman. And listen, I think professionalism goes a long way for me. And all these guys were not all, a lot of these people with ISP and CSI, things like that. They were all very professional. So there wasn't anyone that I saw that I discounted other than Sarah Carbaugh. I think, kind of as a whole, we just decided to throw that one out. Not that she's a hard person to believe, but I think the defense did a good job trying to discount her. And I'm saying that that's anything bad for her, but because I who knows what anyone would do in that situation. Like, I'm not a bad person or anything like that. But as far as when we were evaluating evidence, how can you use that word? We really wanted to make sure we just believed it without a shadow of a doubt. Okay. Um, so from that little response, I took two things away from that. One was we didn't believe Sarah Carba. And that's pretty astonishing because, yeah, she was the least believable witness, period. I agree that no one should have believed Sarah Carba. She was full of poop. But but they certainly did believe Brian Harshman. And, I thought back to that and thought about some of my, I thought about some of my friends who were in the courtroom. And some of my friends in the courtroom said to me, yeah, Prof, the thing about this Brian Harshman was he really looked the part. You see, he really looked the part. Professional, like a cop, like a believable cop, like a trusted cop, blah, 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 blah. So what I took away from that is like I really like Harshman. He's professional. He looks the part. He smells right. He smells like a trustworthy cop. Um, but that was a pretty rich paragraph there. I really like Harshman. Professionalism goes a long way. He's really professional. Uh, I don't believe Sarah Carbo. I mean, not that I'm a bad person or anything. So there was a lot there, I thought. And what struck me about that was that I knew what Brian Harshman had contributed to both the trial and the pre-trial hearings. And and the thing was, I have been most disturbed by Brian Harshman and what he was allowed to say in front of the jurors. And and so I combine those two things, right? I combine the uh, the things that Brian Harshman was allowed to opine on, and I put that together with the impression that the jury came away with that he's a professional law enforcement officer, trustworthy to the highest degree. And and you put those things together, and it's pretty insane because you have someone who is going to be trusted and whose word will be taken as solid from the jury, and you put that together with someone giving willy-nilly opinions recklessly to a jury, and it's a terrible combination. And so for that reason, I thought we need to go back and take a close look at that. And I actually think that it's going to happen more than once. I think we'll go back to this uh, another time or two after tonight because I think this is a huge deal. And I think a lot of people have kind of missed it. And and listen, the problem with this is nothing that Brian Harshman did seems to be against the law or um, not allowed in the court. So what it turns out is that this is allowed in court. And I'll give you an example. Okay. So I looked into the law in Indiana regarding opinions, and it says we all speak in generalities, opinions, conclusions, and characterizations. Witnesses do also. Okay. It would be folly to try to prevent such testimony. And the opinion rule reflects this reality. Opinions of all kinds are admissible in court as long as they help the jury, quote unquote, understand what the witness saw. Opinions come in three basic types. The first two, which fall under Rule 701 and are covered in this chapter. A, lay witness opinions are the kind of conclusions, generalizations, and characterizations that ordinary people make to communicate what they have seen. They are admissible as long as they are rationally based on the witness's perception and the characterization is helpful to clear understanding of their testimony. Rationality is a reasonable person standard. It's the kind of characterization people commonly would make based on what is observed. B, skilled witness opinions are the kind of conclusions people make based on their experience, often from their occupation. Okay. Like other lay opinions, they characterize what the witness has seen and are admissible if rationally based on the witness's perception and helpful to the jury. Helpful. The difference is that their experience is taken into account in deciding whether that opinion is rational. Is it the kind of opinion a person familiar with uh, whatever would make? There is no clear dividing line between lay and skilled opinions. And then three, expert witnesses may testify to a broad range of opinions and conclusions. And unlike lay and skilled witnesses, do not need personal knowledge. They are separately discussed. Okay. Now, interesting here. Three kind of opinions are improper in all situations. Speculation without facts, which I believe is what Brian Harshman was teetering on. Legal conclusions and opinions about the credibility of a witness. Okay. So the foundation, personal knowledge, a witness's opinion must be based on personal knowledge and observation of events. Okay. The foundation may be laid either from the witness's own testimony or from context. No particular quantum of knowledge is required. The adequacy of a witness's observation supporting a conclusion is a question of weight, not admissibility. B, rational basis. The opinion must be rationally based on information available to the witness. To be rational, an opinion must be the type of opinion a reasonable person would form based on the observation. No specific foundation testimony is required. This is a decision for the court based on the circumstances. Experience. Whether an opinion is rational depends on the witness's experience. Helpfulness. The opinion will help the jury understand a witness's testimony or determine a fact in issue. Now, you see how muddied these terms are? Police officers can give their opinion that a home had been burglarized if they have experience investigating burglaries. Okay? For skilled witnesses, a foundation must be laid describing what kind of experience they have that is not common. Common situations include when a witness's perceptions cannot realistically be expressed in any other form. When a witness has formed an overall impression but is unable to recount all the details. Or when witnesses describing details alone would not accurately convey the total impression received by the witness. In general, however, details are preferred over conclusions as the testimony draws nearer to the case's central issues. If the opinion concerns a person's mental condition, the value of goods or services, or the identity of a person or object based on comparison, the witness must demonstrate specialized knowledge gained over time. How to object. And here is where I think errors were made by the defense. Remember, I will continually express to you my dissatisfaction with the defense's performance in this trial, and I'll try to help point out where I believe there were mistakes made. So maybe on the next go around, they can do a better job. But here it says, because Rule 701 is a rule of admissibility, you cannot object simply because the witness is stating an opinion. You must argue that the foundation for one or more of these criteria has not been laid. For example, personal knowledge. A witness testifies she called police because the neighbors were having a fight. You could object to the characterization of fight for lack of foundation to show the witness didn't have personal knowledge of what was going on. Experience. A 7-year-old child testifies that a defendant's car was going 60 miles an hour. You could object for lack of foundation that a young child has the necessary experience to make an opinion reliable because the child does not drive. Or rationality. A witness testifies she was 3 blocks away on a dark night and caught a glimpse of the defendant and he looked drunk. You could object for lack of foundation that the witness could rationally reach that conclusion because a typical person could not discern intoxication under those circumstances. Okay. Skilled witnesses. In general, under a technical reading of evidence rules, there's no such thing as an expert on a matter of common knowledge. Experts are connected to fields of specialized knowledge, Rule 702. However, lay witnesses who have extensive experience with a particular subject beyond that of most jurors may be able to give helpful opinions about that subject based on personal experience. Such a witness is called a skilled witness and is permitted to testify to a broad range of opinions as long as they are based on personal knowledge and not reviewing a file. Examples include an experienced nurse could testify as to how she personally interpreted a fetal heart monitor. An experienced martial arts teacher who viewed a fight could testify that the defendant had probably stabbed himself. An experienced automatic door technician could testify about the operation of a door. B, law enforcement officers. This is where you listen. The skilled lay witness rule has been invoked most often in the case of experienced law enforcement officers. For example, an experienced crime scene tech who had searched hundreds of cars could give an opinion that a defendant's car had been recently cleaned. Police officers who had become familiar with the smell of toluene, the intoxicant in glue sniffing, could testify that the substance used by the defendant smelled of toluene. An experienced police officer who had worked on 250 drug cases could give his opinion as to whether the amount of drugs found indicate they were for individual use or for sale, but but could not testify to what amount would get someone high because he lacked personal experience. Opinions from skilled witnesses must be rational based on personal observation and experience and not overly speculative. Okay. Now, I think that's where it got weird because with Brian Harshman, the real question is, was he overly speculative or was there good foundation for his skilled witness testimony, uh, especially to the two areas where he gave very influential testimony against Richard Allen, and the one being regarding the alleged confessions that he overheard by reviewing phone calls, and determining that, and the other point being determining that, in his opinion, the voice of Richard Allen sounded like it was the voice of Bridge Guy, or vice versa, that the voice captured on the Bridge Guy recording from Libby's phone belonged to Richard Allen. Now, I believe that in the first instance regarding confessions, it's tentative at best, or spec. It could go either way, whether it weighs too much on the side of speculation. But I truly do believe that in terms of whether that voice is Richard Allen's or not, that is captured on the phone that was in possession of the victim, I believe that it was complete speculation, willy nilly, reckless, and highly prejudiced the jury against Mr. Richard Allen. And remember, at the end of this, when the jury asked to go back and review, they went back and they reviewed the fact that Richard Allen was Bridge Guy. Yes, that's what it was, because remember, I have stated many times that the state did not prove that Bridge Guy had anything to do with the abductions of those girls, but they asserted so, and have asserted so since 2017, that it is the Bridge Guy, or the guy captured in the footage on that phone, that was responsible for the deaths of these girls or involved in some way. They've never proven that, but they've asserted that. Okay. And they used Brian Harshman's willy nilly speculation that the voice of Richard Allen that he's listened to in these phone calls was the voice of that person on that recording. Now, that should have been objected to. And I don't know what the hell our defense attorneys were thinking. They made huge mistakes in this trial. And I guarantee you, that was probably one of the most significant mistakes that they made, was allowing that to fly, because that alone ingrained in the minds of these jurors that Richard Allen was Bridge Guy. And you combine that with the fact that he had interpreted statements willy-nilly from Richard Allen's phone calls as confessions that were not confessions. So both of these were extremely insane. Okay, so let's get into this, because what I'm going to do, we're going to start and go backwards. Okay, so we're going to start at the testimony, or notes from the testimony that he gave at trial, and then we're going to go back in time. So that's how we'll handle some of this here. Okay. Now this says, at 9:30 a.m., the state called Indiana State Police Master Trooper Yeah, you remember how I say they always give them very, very hefty titles to induce credibility, right? Um, the state called Harshman. Harshman tells the jury he's been with the ISP over 30 years. He says he became involved in the Delphi investigation in April of 2020. Harshman tells the jury he became the phone guy, meaning he monitored Allen's communications from inside custody to the outside world. He says he monitored calls, video chats, and text. He says he has listened and re listened to 700 hours of Allen's calls. Harshman tells the jury that either Allen calls his wife or his mother. Harshman says that yes, Allen makes incriminating statements. The prosecution references a call on November 11th, 2022, that Allen made to his wife, Kathy. Allen tells her that he would call the detectives and, quote, tell them whatever they want to hear if things become too much for her. Okay. We'll stop there. Question for everybody out there, especially all the idiot troll farm bootlicking bitches in the back. Is the statement, I'll call detectives and tell them whatever they want to hear, is that a confession? I'll tell them whatever they want to hear. Is that a confession? Okay, so far, zero. All right. The prosecution plays a call from November 14th that Allen made to Kathy. Says on the call, I don't want to upset you anymore. Tell the investigators to come get me. I will tell them whatever they want me to. Does that sound like a confession? Okay, on November 11th, I'll tell them whatever they want to hear. November 14th, I'll tell them whatever they want me to. Kathy says, I wish I could hug you. News 8, Kyla Russell reports that Allen has his head down in the courtroom and his wife is crying while these calls are played. During the calls, Allen is crying loudly. He says, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I know what you told me. I believe you. You take care of yourself, okay? Kathy says, you get the help you need. Allen responds, I'm sorry, baby. I wish I could see you, babe. You don't know what I would give to see you one last time. I'll see you in the next life. You take care of the family for me. Is that a confession? Okay. Prosecution plays another call from April 2nd, 2023, from Allen to his mother, Janice. Harshman says this call is about Allen saying he found Jesus Christ. Janice says it's good to hear from you. Allen says he's been trying to get a hold of Kathy. Janice says they've had some bad storms and tornadoes. Allen says they had hail at the prison. He asked Janice to tell Kathy he's okay and he will try to get through to her. Janice tells Allen that she started going to church after a car accident in 2022. Allen tells her that's good, that he did not know she was going. Janice says, he's been sparing my life for a reason all these years. Allen tells Janice, got a family that will always love me. He won't let this last forever. We're going to be back all together someday. It may be when we are all in heaven. He's going to work a miracle out of all of it. He already has. Kathy sent me a Bible. Allen says he accepted God in March 21st of 2023. Allen says he wants Kathy to thank one of their doctors for saving his life because he suggested Kathy give him a Bible. Allen tells Janice he loves her. Is that a confession yet? Okay. The prosecution plays another call from April 3rd, 2023, that Allen made to his wife. Now, let me put the brakes on there. And let me pull this down. You see, all of these trolls and these prosecutors, these fucking law enforcement officers, and this judge, they all want you to forget about space and time. Okay? Think back to Richard Allen undergoing a complete mental breakdown. Let me help you. Let me help you. We're going to say this is a. Okay. Because I will baby walk you hand in hand for each step of this. Never say that you don't have help understanding. If if it's hard for you to understand common sense and reason. We're going back to July 31st. And Dr. Monaco Wallace notes from March of 2023, Rick said, I don't feel right. Walla acknowledged his baseline is depression and categorized his condition as poor, critical, and deteriorating. From April 1st, 2023, documented suicidal ideation delusions. Rick made the statement, death would bring relief. Walla observed insomnia, poor appetite, hopelessness, low self-esteem, and more. On April 2nd, 2023, Walla noted Rick was more critical. At some point, emergency involuntary medication was administered. This is April 2nd. Reason, head injury and self-harm. Okay? Let's put that on hold and let's go back to this. That's the day before what you're about to hear. The prosecution plays another call from April 3rd, the very fucking next day, that Allen made to his wife. Allen says, I did it. I killed Abby and Libby. Kathy says, no, you didn't. No, you didn't, dear. Don't say that. You weren't feeling well. They messed up your meds. Remember, the day before, involuntarily medicated, self-harm, suicidal ideation, major depressive episode. Kathy asked, why would you say that? Allen responds, maybe I did. Kathy says, they are messing with your mind. Something is not right. They are screwing with you there. Don't you ever say you did it. I know you didn't. Allen responds, I think I did. Kathy says, they're fooling with you, trying to get you to say things. Allen asks to apologize to the families. Kathy says, just don't talk anymore. Okay? Do you understand? Now we're going to take another break. From Walla's notes, April 13th, 10 days later, grave disability noted, observed consuming feces, considering involuntary medication via injection. A hearing was held and involuntary medication was scheduled. On April 21st, Walla had a conversation with Rick regarding his competency to stand trial. Walla observed disjointed thoughts. On May 3rd, Rick confessed again. I want to confess. Walla questioned if he was being truthful, as he made similar statements multiple times. By May 12th, Rick's disorganized thinking had accelerated. On May 18th, he had a man down incident due to another scheduled injection. Okay. May 22nd, Rick's depression was at peak. Monica Walla noted the physiological symptoms, including trembling, stuttering, buckling knees, and bulging eyes. All right? So that's what's happening in May. The prosecution plays another call from May 10th. Alan called Kathy at 5:03 a.m. Kathy says, "Are you there?" Alan responds, "I am." Kathy says, "Hi, honey, it's good to hear your voice. Are they going to move you?" Alan says, "I don't know. I think maybe I am losing my mind." Alan asks Kathy if she's okay. Kathy says, we've all lost our minds at this point. Okay? Now back to this. McClellan asks Harshman if he recognizes the voice of the man on Libby's cell phone, which Holman said yes. McClellan then asks Harshman. Well, that should have said Harshman. Who do you believe that voice to be? Harshman responds, the voice of Richard Allen. Rozzi began cross-examination. Rozzi asked Harshman if someone told him that Delphi resident Brad Weber was not a credible human being, would that change his opinion? Harshman responded no. Rozzi asked Harshman if he ever considered Weber could be involved in the crime if his van was there at the time, which Harshman responded no. Harshman confirmed Allen was videotaped 24/7, but Harshman did not agree that seeing those videos would be helpful in providing context. Harshman also confirmed throughout his career he has never been assigned to monitor an inmate like this. Well, remember, he begged for this case. Harshman also said he did not go see Allen's cell in Westville, but did go see his cell in Cass County. Rozzi asked Harshman if he saw a video of Allen eating feces, which Harshman said yes. Rozzi then asked Harshman if he thought this to be psychotic behavior, but Harshman said he thinks Allen was just trying to get attention. Rozzi said Harshman mischaracterized a phone call that Allen made to his wife. Rozzi claims Allen would say, whatever it is they want me to say. Rozzi asked Harshman to confirm if Allen made 3 phone calls on April 3rd, one of which wasn't reviewed by Harshman in his testimony. That call was allegedly made to Allen's parents. Rozzi asked Harshman if Allen proclaimed his innocence in the phone call, but the prosecution objected to the question, which Special Judge Francis Gull sustained. Gull then had a sidebar with counsel. Rozzi said Allen made 700 phone calls while in solitary confinement for 2 years. Now remember, May 17th, Richard was in the middle of a complete psychotic break. Call from Richard to his mother, Janice. In the call, Alan asked his mother if his wife, Kathy, told her that he did it. His mother said, "We're not going to discuss this." Alan later said to his mother, "I'm just worried you guys aren't going to love me because I said I did it." Is that a confession? Yeah, I didn't think. I didn't think so. Alan's mother told him he wasn't in a good place then and will always love you no matter what. Alan then confessed again to the crime. Alan's mom said, "Rick, don't talk like this. I think they're messing with you. I just don't, I just know you don't have it in you to do something like that." Alan then said, "Mom, why would I tell you I did it if I didn't?" "Well, I'll tell you why. Because they're threatening to kill your family." During redirect, McClellan asked Harshman if he had ever seen Richard Allen violent. Harshman said, "Video from Cass County Jail shows Allen screaming loudly, irately, pounding on the doors of the cell, and telling the guards he's going to effing kill them." The defense objected to mentioning this video because they said it was not revealed in discovery or shared with them. And Gull issues a break so they can watch the video. Alan asks Kathy if he can trust Brad and Andy and his attorneys. Kathy says, "Yes, they are our lawyers." Alan says, "I think I need to tell you something. I need you to know that I did this." Kathy says, "Dear, there's no way. I love you, honey, but no, you have not done anything. You are not well." Alan says again that he is losing his mind and says it feels like it's taking forever. "I'm just trying to be at peace with everything," Kathy says. Alan says he had a dream that he needed to let Kathy go. Kathy says, "You're dreaming things again. I have to let you know I did it," Alan says. Okay, let me take a break here. So far, sounds like we got one confession, right? Sitting right in the middle of his complete psychotic breakdown in early May, in the midst of this complete psychotic break, we've got one statement that I did this. Okay? The prosecution plays a call from May 10, 2023. The call is from Alan to his wife. Alan asked, "I need to know if you still love me." Kathy responds, "I do." Alan asked, "And everybody else as well, honey?" Kathy says, "Yes." Alan says, "I may have to spend the rest of my life in here. I don't understand." Kathy says, "You're not well." Alan says, "I'm well. Yes, I am, honey. If I get the electric chair." Kathy says, "That's not going to happen. This isn't right. They've messed with you. They've messed you up so bad." Alan says, "I did it. I've got someone listening to me right now." Kathy tells him, "No, you don't. We're going to be back together." Alan tells her, "I've been trying to let you go." She responds with, "I'll be with you. Please stop talking." Do I need to read that again for you? I did it. I've got someone listening to me right now. Does that sound like he's making the call because someone's standing over him and he's doing it in front of them? Remember, so far, we're only at two. We're only at two. So we're from what was the date? It was early May. He says, "I did this." Okay. "I have to let you know I did it. I'm trying to let you go." Then on May 10th, "I may get the electric chair. I did it. I've got someone listening to me right now. I've been trying to let you go. Okay. Prosecution plays a call from June 5th, 2023, between Alan and Kathy. Kathy says, "Get your coffee or snacks, whatever you need, babe." Alan says he hates using that money when I don't even know where it came from. Kathy says, "Doesn't matter. It's in there. Everyone is thinking of you." Alan says, "I feel like I've lost my mind, like I'm in hell." Kathy tells him, "Well, you're kind of living in it right now." "I feel like I've lost my mind." June 5th. "Like I'm in hell." "Well, you're kind of living in it right now." Alan says, "She knows that I done it, right?" Kathy says, "I don't want to think about that." Alan says, "I'm just in a really frustrating spot right now. Nobody will talk to me. Don't feel like anybody is willing to be honest with me right now." Kathy tells Alan she's trying to get someone in there to pray with you. The prosecution plays a call from June 11, 2023, between Richard and Kathy. Alan says, "I did it. Kathy, I did it. Do you still love me?" Kathy says, "Yes, dear, but you didn't do it. Why do you say that? Why do you say that?" Alan says, "I don't want to upset you." Kathy tells him she's already upset. Alan says he feels like he's lost his mind again. Kathy says, "You can't call me and talk like this, okay?" Alan says, "I'm so sorry, baby." Kathy says she can't talk to him right now. Alan says, "I didn't want to do this, honey. I'm so sorry. You aren't going to do anything to yourself, okay? Probably going to have to kill myself now." Kathy says, "Stop. You can't call me and talk like this." Alan asks, "Why are you so mad at me?" She responds, "I'm not mad. I'm upset." Alan says, "Can't tell you what's been going through my mind. I feel like I'm already in hell again. I don't understand what's going on." Kathy says, "Neither do I." Alan says, "I guess I'm just going to have to stop calling. I'm sorry." Kathy says, "You can't talk like this." At this point, Harshman describes Alan's demeanor as subdued and that he believed he was not under stress. Are you fucking kidding me? He's not under stress. "I feel like I've lost my mind," which, what did he say that about 3 different times? Sounds like sounds like he said, "I feel like I'm losing my mind" about 3 different times. He said, "I feel like I'm in hell" about 3 different times. And then "I don't want to upset you." Seems like he's under stress, don't you? And let's go back to Dr. Monica Walla, okay? By the way, let's go back to that. On May 7th, a 24 watch was implemented. Rick was sleeping a lot. On May 3rd, Rick experiences a seizure, crying out for help, asking to call his wife. She doesn't answer the phone when Walla calls. Rick's confession: "I want to tell my wife what I've done. I want you to hear it." Rick lost about 40 pounds in 2 months. Okay. Um, Let me go back to this. Now we're going to get back to this Other inmates were around telling him to kill himself. Now, this is from Dr. Walla. They're telling him, kill yourself. You're a baby killer. Constantly making noise. Okay? Rick's diagnosed with major depressive disorder. He's medicated on Prozac. He's being force administered Haldol. Um, remember, back in April and May, he's having severe episodes. Okay? June, April, May, June, severe episodes to the point of trembling, stuttering, buckling knees, bulging eyes, losing the 40 pounds. Uh, he was having reactions to stress. Okay, this is what Monica Walla noted was the reference material was psychological reactions to stress that she was using. He was in a vegetative state of depression. Okay, this is the time period we are talking about here. You know, this is the time period that these conversations are happening that we're looking at. But Harshman declares, yeah, he's not under stress. No stress. He's not stressed. Okay. But remember, in this previous page here, he says, I'm going to have to kill myself. Right? Now, what happens? The prosecution leaps ahead. Okay, they leap ahead. What? See, yeah, okay, so let me back this off again. So realize what they did. They took the absolute worst, which were three confessions. Three confessions. I did it. I feel like I'm living in hell and feel like I'm losing in my mind. I did it. I feel like I'm living in hell. Someone's with me listening right now. I did it. I feel like I'm living in hell. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I think I'm going to have to kill myself. See? They take those statements at the absolute pinnacle of his depressive episode, his psychological break, when he's having man down incidents and being force injected these medications. And in the midst of this, they take that, okay? Then they say, he's not under stress. He's fine. He's just doing fine. Leaping ahead to August 2024. let's just leap ahead now that we've gotten all that we can get, which are a couple direct statements from the absolute peak of his psychological episode or psychotic break. And he comes in and he says, let's move to August 2024. Here's a report from Dr. Monica Walla. In the report, Alan described what he did on the day of the murders. In the report, Alan said he went to his parents' home, didn't go to lunch with them. He bought a 6-pack of beer, drank 3 of them, and went to the trails. He said he saw the girls and did something to his gun and a bullet fell out. You know, it sounds like this. So let me be Monica Walla and I'll also be Richard Allen, okay? Oh, did you rack your gun and did a bullet fall out? I think I did. Check. Did you see a van and did it scare you? And is that why you killed the girls? I think I did. Yeah. Check. Did you use a box cutter from work like they had said Ron Logan did? Yeah. And did you throw it back? Did you throw it in the dumpster at work later that day or something like that? Probably. Yeah. I think I did. Check. That's probably how that all went down. Allen said in the report that he thought the girls were older and intended to grape them. He then saw a van and killed them. He then covered their bodies with sticks and left, according to report. Oh, I left one out. I left one out. Did you? The sticks. There were sticks on the girls. Did you throw sticks on the girls to hide their bodies? Uh, I think so. Yeah. Check. All right. Harsh. Now here we're getting back to the substance of this. Okay. Harshman tells the jury that this is the first report he'd seen with details from Allen on the crime. He says the detail that stuck out was about the van. Prior to that, he had not heard about a van. The only person that would have seen a van there would have been Libby, Abby, and the person that killed them. Really? Really? Mm-hmm. Well, we now know that's to be false, right? Harshman tells the jury he looked up to see who lived at that residence and found who owned it. He ran a DMV check on Brad Weber, the man who owned the property. Harshman realized that Weber owned a 2000 Ford Econoline. The state enters the van as an exhibit. Harshman says he got the report from Weber early on in the investigation. He said that he interviewed Weber in August of 2024. He said that none of the reports on the day of the murder reported that Weber drove a van. Harshman says he didn't think those reports were public. He tells the jury he filed a report on his interview with Weber. Kyla Russell reports that it's important to note that Dr. Manokawala testified Wednesday that Allen made the specific confession involving the van in May of 2023. What did I tell y'all was happening in May of 2023? Think about it. April, May, June. What was happening in May of 2023? At the peak of his vulnerability, his psychotic break, the prosecution plays the down the hill video for Harshman. Harshman is viewing the stabilized version. Harshman received Libby's health data from Cecil, who was the state's phone expert. Harshman tells the jury that Libby's phone stopped moving at 2:32. Prosecutor McClellan asked him how that information aligns with what he got from Weber. Harshman says, van was on that road between 2:27 and 2:30 p.m. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, we lied. Sounds like we lied. Sounds like the prosecutor should have known that you lied. Sounds like we've just shown newly discovered evidence that well shit, where was it? Where was it? Remember this? I showed you this. What's the timestamp on there? What's that? That is that is Weber driving home at 2:44 p.m. Yeah, that's what that is. That's Weber driving home at 2:44. And right here is the FBI saying that Weber pinged at 2:50. Okay? So, is that lining up? Weber's driving home at 2:44. Weber's pinging at 2:50. But Brian Harshman had made up a fantasy that between 2:27 and 2:30 that Weber is driving. At least that's what the jury got to hear, right? He tells the jury he recognizes the voice from Alan's phone and that the voice is the same as Bridge Guy. Yeah, that was allowed. That was allowed. Does it make sense? You see how this fits together? Just it locks together. It's rock solid from the state. Now, to close it out, there's another gaslight. Defense attorney Brad Rossi begins cross-exam. Harshman says there were about 14,000 tips about the crime. Many were identified as being about Bridge Guy's voice. Right. So the 14,000 tips, the many of those about Bridge Guy's voice don't matter, but yours does, which is completely speculative. All right. But listen, speaking about that, 14,000 tips? That's not adding up. That's not adding up. If there's only 14,000 tips, then why is every single officer giving a different number of tips for these Delphi murders? Defense attorney Rossi says, Harshman's theory doesn't take into account that Weber could have looked at his phone or gone to the gas station because he believes the van had to be there at 2:20 to 2:30. Rossi asks Harshman if Weber could have been involved in the crime if he's placed there at that time. Harshman says no. Oh, really? Why would you say no? I mean, if you had a van down there on that private drive under that bridge at the same time the girls were up on that bridge, who's to say you didn't try to put those girls in that rapist van? Rossi asks if Alan had an injection, would that have affected his voice? Prosecution objects, and it says that it calls for speculation. Harshman responds that he did not have any clue what medication Alan was on while he was listening to his phone calls. Harshman agrees that Alan lost privacy when in custody. Rossi asks if seeing video of Alan's cell would be helpful for context. Harshman says he don't believe so. He don't need context. Harshman says he's never been asked to monitor someone in a pretrial situation like Alan. Rossi references the May 2023 confession from Alan where he said he was lying in wait. Rossi points out that in the Bridge Guy video, a man behind the girls was walking. Harshman says he could have very well been lying in wait, and then the girls walked by and he followed. Rossi says Alan's reference to the van was not general. Was general, not specific. Is that the only van in Carroll County at that time? Rossi asks. Well, you actually did good on that one, Rossi. Harshman says that was the only van on 625 at that time. Well, bad news. It wasn't there at that time, Harshman. It was there at 2:45. Harshman says he's been listening to Alan's calls since the trial has started and continues to report if needed. Rossi says Alan also proclaims his innocence on calls. Harshman says he notes that. Harshman also told the jury he has visited Westville 2 or 3 times over the course of the investigation and visited Allen's cell at the Cass County Jail. He tells the jury his cell has a table, a small commissary, and a shower. Harshman tells the jury he has possibly seen video of Allen eating his feces. He says Allen's actions are because he's in constant need of attention. What? He tells the jury that Allen said that on phone calls. Harshman told the jury he's seen Allen rolling around in food and maybe feces. Razi tells Harshman that he should have said something to the medical staff. Harshman says that would be out of his lane. Razi references a November 2022 call where Allen says, quote, he was willing to do whatever it took to make sure his wife didn't take the heat. I'm going to tell them whatever they want to hear. I'm telling you I did it. Someone's standing over me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure my wife doesn't take the heat. Oh, they're threatening to kill me, call me a kid killer and a baby killer, and threatening to kill my family. You know, the guys with the Odin patches. Prosecutor McClellan continually objects. Yeah, we know how he does things. Object, 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 object. Little Dicky Nicky. Prosecutor McClellan continually objects, and Razi keeps asking questions. Gull calls for them to approach the bench. Razi says the bulk of confessions came in April through June of 2023. When did I say the fucking major psychotic break was? April, May, June. April, May, June. If you guys know anything about this case, okay, if you're gonna walk around here pretending that you know anything about the case against Richard Allen, the main thing you need to know is April, May, June of 2023. That's the one thing that you need to know above all else when it comes to the case against Richard Allen. April, May, June. Razi says the bulk of the confessions came in April through June. April, May, June. He asked Harshman if that was the same time Allen was engaged in bizarre behaviors. Harshman says yes. Harshman says the specific confession from May 2023 had details only the killer would know. And Monica Walla. Court's back in session at 1:34. Prosecution plays a phone call that wasn't able to be played earlier. Harshman's still on the stand. Prosecutor asked him if there have been issues in Cass County. Harshman tells the jury yes. He's been restrained. McClellan asked Harshman if that over lunch today he watched a video of Allen screaming and swearing, saying that a guard was going to effing kill him. Or saying to a guard that he was going to effing kill him. All right, now we're going to be moving right along. So what we're doing now, that was pretty good coverage by Wish TV. We'll take a look at some WTHR coverage. All right, it says the state's 40th witness ISP Master Trooper Brian Harshman. So it's going to be more of the same, but we'll go through quicker for this. He's been with ISP for 30 years. Started the Delphi case in April 2020. He monitored all the calls. He reviewed about 700 Richard Allen phone calls, said most were around 30 minutes, and that he spent an unsurmountable amount of time. Unsurmountable amount of time listening to calls from Richard Allen to his wife and mother. Regarding a November 14th phone call from Richard to his wife, Harshman said Richard Allen tells his wife, quote, "If this becomes too much for you, call the detectives and I'll tell them whatever they want to know." Yeah, more like I'll tell them whatever they want to hear, right? November 14th. He says, "I love you." He's crying and distraught. He tells Kathy, "I don't want you to worry about me." He says, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I fucked up. If anything happens, I'll see you in the next life. Take care of the family." Yeah, sounds like maybe they're threatening to kill him. It's like maybe they're threatening to kill him. I'll tell him whatever they want to hear. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, sorry, fucked up. Maybe I'll see you in the next life. Take care of the family. April 2nd, 2023. Rewind. We already covered this. Remember, this is when he's starting the major psychotic break here. Harshman says Allen confesses to killing Abby and Libby. Tells his mother he found Jesus and God. During the call, Allen initially sounds upbeat and positive and asks his mother if she's going to church. Allen then cries and asks his mother, "Did Kathy tell you I told her that I accepted Lord Jesus Christ as my Savior?" He also says, "I've got a family that's always going to love me no matter what. I know we are all going to be back together eventually. I didn't accept God into my life until March 21st, 2023. April 3rd, to Kathy, he says, he has a phone call to Allen. A phone call to Kathy in which he says, "Honey, I did it. I killed Abby and Libby," he said during one of the calls. Kathy repeated to her husband for him not to say that. Okay. Remember, I said there's 3 confessions. That's one. May 10th. During this call, he told his wife, "I think I've lost my mind." And she says, "We've all lost our minds. I need to tell you something. Are you sure you want to talk to me over the phone?" "I think I need to. I need you to know that I did this," he said to his wife in the call. "Wait, no, there's no way," Kathy responded. "You are not well, so you don't need to say you did something you didn't do." Allen then says again, "I have to let you know that I did it." May 10th, call to from Richard to his wife. "I may have to spend the rest of my life here," Allen says. She can be heard crying. "I don't understand. I've just got to know everybody is still going to love me." Allen confesses to the crime again in this call. "It's okay, honey. I did it. I did it, baby." Allen can be heard telling his wife, "I killed Abby and Libby." Allen is heard asking his wife if she's going to love him, her crying, saying, "I love you." June 5th. Remember, April, May, June. June 5th. Call from Richard to his wife. Bob Segal notes he sounds depressed. It's a quiet call. In the call, Allen talks about losing his mind and ends the call with, "But you know that I done it, right?" June 11. The call starts with Allen telling his wife, "I did it," asking if she still loves him. April, May, June. The call continues with Allen later telling Kathy, "I feel like I'm already in hell." After listening, Harshman describes Allen's tone as calm and subdued. McClellan asked Harshman if there was any indication Allen was under stress. Harshman responded, "No." Yeah, eating shit, banging your head on the wall, rolling around in food, uh, wanting to unalive yourself, all those things. Yeah, no, no, he's not depressed. He's doing just fine. Let me ask you guys this. Look at this. What does this look like? I mean, look, there's no secret. There's no secret that not only do I have children, okay, not only do I have children, um, but I was in a position in my career to be around children all day, every day for 20 years. Okay, you know what this looks like? This is the way that approximately, I would say, third grader. Okay, let's say anywhere between second and third grade, maybe even second and fourth if you're in the inner city somewhere. All right, say fourth grader. Let's just negotiate. Let's meet in the middle. This is fourth grade handwriting. All right. I am ready to officially confess for killing Abby and Libby. I hope I get the opportunity to tell the families I'm sorry. Richard Allen. Fourth grade handwriting. Okay. In the inner city. Because if you're among people who have had preschool and all that, they're writing this way in they're writing this way in second grade. But no, let's say fourth grade. Whatever the case, whatever the case. Do you think this is an adult man who used to manage a pharmacy or a CVS or whatever the fuck, Walmart? Do you think this is something a capable adult with in his right mind would be producing? What's up, Gina? Long time no see, Gina. So what are you saying, Prof? Well, what I'm saying is that sounds like there's a whole bunch of fucking bullshit that you had a period of time in the first half of 2023 when this man was dropping in weight. I mean, you all remember what he looked like. Okay. Everyone knows what he looked like at that time. Everyone knows what he looked like. He looked like he was at death's door. So at this very time he was undergoing that kind of condition. This is when they were able to squeeze this stuff out of him. I mean, it shouldn't have been allowed in court. Shouldn't have been allowed in court. Bottom line, should not have been allowed. Uh, it's really manipulative to the jury, but keep in mind everything that happened was manipulative towards the jury. Remember, I've constantly beat on how uh, unbelievable McClelland's closing was when he traumatized the jury with the crime scene photos. You know, what did he do? He traumatized them with those crime scene photos by putting those right in their faces. Okay. Then he glorified the victims, calling them heroes and they solved their own murders and blah, 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 blah. And then what did he do? They pointed right at Richard Allen. Okay. Now, Harshman was a huge part of this. This is what I'm getting at with you, that this would not have happened this way without Brian Harshman. So what I want to do, we're going to go back to July 31st, 2024. Let me remove it again. Sorry. Remember, because do you remember all of this troll farm going all over the internet? Okay, all over the internet. I mean, Reddit, Facebook especially. Oh my God, the fucking maniacs on Facebook. I can't even look at Facebook because that's where all the old witches live. Okay, all these old insane, old, raggedy ass old ladies. I can't even look at Facebook. I can barely look at Reddit. You know, thank God there's YouTube where at least there's sanity to be found here and there. But all of these raggedy assholes on Reddit, on YouTube, on Facebook, they were running around, all these troll farm, these meth heads, these fucking alcoholics and chomos. They were running around troll farming saying 65 confessions, 62 confessions, 63 confessions, 64 confessions, 60 plus confessions, 60 he confessed 65 times. He's fucking guilty. 65. Yeah, sounded like 3 or 4 to me. Right? Sounded like 3 or 4, right? 64 confessions in a 2 or 3 months period when he was absolutely at the depths of his illness. Well, what I'm going to prove to you today, it wasn't 65 confessions. See, that's where the lies were. The whole objective of this public relations campaign that they ran out before this trial was to influence the potential future jurors or the jury pool. They wanted that jury pool to absolutely be compelled to believe that he confessed 65 times. All right? They had to have this jury. See, the reason they paraded him around like Hannibal Lecter, did you notice? Do you look at, tell me who else is paraded around the way that they paraded Richard Allen around? They have him shackled in every which way. Okay. Look, I said earlier today to somebody, I said, they didn't even parade Garrett Kurtz around like that. Tell me, when have you ever seen Garrett Kurtz paraded around the way that they paraded Richard Allen around? They paraded him around like he was a monster. Simultaneously, because he was a PR campaign, while they're parading him around like a monster, they have all the fucking troll farm out there, all in unison saying 65 confessions, 60, he's guilty, he's a kid killer, he's guilty, and at the same time, they're all intimidating and threatening the shit out of us. Right? They were trying to shut us up, simultaneously running around. He's guilty. Wait till you see the Google searches. He killed those out. He's a killer. He's a monster. Blah, blah. And it worked. It worked. It worked. But I'm going to prove to you today. I'm going to prove to you today There's absolutely the whole concept of 65, 60 plus, 62, 63, whatever number of confessions, it's absolute BS. Maximum 4, more like 3. You got 3 or 4 confessions in where he's saying, along with the confessions, he's saying, I feel like I'm in hell. I think I'm losing my mind. I'm saying it because someone's here listening to me. I'm do whatever I have to do so that you don't have to deal with any bullshit anymore. I'm trying to let you go. I'll go down for you. Okay. So the 3 or 4 you managed to get out of him while you were trying to force a plea deal. See, this is something I also have to elaborate just to be sure that I express myself properly to you. The idea was never to get confessions out of him, right? I don't think that was the objective. The objective was to force him to plea, because they never wanted this to go to trial. They wanted to force a plea out of him. And they were convinced that it was going to happen. They were absolutely convinced. That's why you had Troll Farm out here saying he was going to confess. I mean, he was going to plea. He's going to plea. I guarantee he's going to plea. Oh, what I heard is they're still working on a plea deal. Remember when they recorded Kathy and they were trying to say that she didn't feel she wasn't married anymore, blah, blah, blah. And they were going to try to get that to him so they could influence him and show him his family doesn't love him anymore. So maybe he'll cooperate with the plea deal. So they were going to force a plea out of him. It didn't work, though. So what they got as a side effect of trying to force the plea by putting him in Westville and doing all they did to him is they got the side effect of they got these 4 confessions, 3 or 4 confessions out of him. All right. So what I want to do is prove to you that this whole concept of 60 something confessions is complete bullshit. Like if you don't already know this, because I have covered this before, if you don't already know that he did not make 65 confessions, you're going to learn today. You're going to learn today. Yeah. You're going to learn there was no such thing as 65 confessions. That was a fantasy world bullshit talking point made by the Troll Farm to run out here and affect the jury pool. And it worked. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to quickly go through this. So what they do here, same thing as always, they go through here. And the first thing they do is they establish how amazing he is and how credible he is. So they say, well, yeah, I've been, I'll be 30 years, Indiana. I'm a detective with the Indiana State Police, and I'm 30 years, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I've investigated homicides, and I was in a U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, and blah, 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 blah. So they try to lay on the credibility. But then here at the bottom, he says, I was talking to First Sergeant Holman. Oh! That's your primary indicator right there. Harshman's best friend. Harshman's butt buddies. Okay. Harshman's best friend. All right. Harshman's best friend here. He says, and I had told him several times, hey, going on quite a while here, I'm sure you guys are burning the candle at both ends. I'm available. If you could use any help, I'm available. I really want this on. I really want on this. I really want to be a part of the Delphi murders. Yes. If you guys please put me on the case, please. And he put me off. He put me off for a few months. And then I asked him again, maybe sometime around March 2020. And he agreed. And I kind of stepped in and started helping the investigation. Now, once Mr. Allen was arrested and charged, did your role change? It did. And what did it change to? Well, once he was arrested and detained, you mean thrown in Westville to be tortured and abused and compelled to confess or plea. I began to monitor his communications from the facility where he was housed and sort of inadvertently appointed myself as the caretaker of the phone calls and some of the video footage, the things we were receiving from the DOC. When I talked to Lieutenant Holman about it, it seemed like a smart thing to do to have one person concentrating on that, just due to the volume of work that was involved in keeping up with everything. All right, so I'm going to skip a portion of this. But he's another Kathy Shank. Just think about it. He's inserted himself into this voluntarily, right? He's begged for attention and inclusion. So he got brought on into this at his own begging, just like Kathy Shank. Sorry, the daughter's a skank. But moving on. I keep notes that I believe may contain pertinent information as regarding the phone calls. I notify Lieutenant Holman and Investigator Mullen. Dude, does it need to get any more clear? Really, does it need to be any more clear? Harshman, Holman, Mullen, that's your triangle of conspirators. Harshman, Holman, Mullen. I mean, is there anyone independent from this festering cesspool that is the center of this unified command or investigation, quote unquote? Harshman, Holman, Mullen. And Mullen will send it to the stenographer to get a transcript, and I'll usually put that in the state police report system. It involves so much time that there's a backlog on those, but once they're transcribed, Investigator Mullen has a copy of the actual transcript. Would you agree that's one of the items of ongoing discovery that accumulates because the calls are being monitored, and if there's something significant, there's a record being created and you document it? Yes. You said you were reviewing video that's recorded within the DOC. Can you be specific? Because we all know there's an in-cell camera video, and then there's also movement video. The video I've reviewed is the movement video that the Department of Corrections utilized when moving Allen from one place to the other. Yeah, and recording his consultations with his attorneys illegally. Just recently, I'm not completely finished with all of them, but just recently, I believe the bulk of the video provided by DOC I received, and I've had to do in-cell video, which I believe I'm current on, but there's so much of it, I'm not completely positive, but I believe I'm current on it. Okay, and we're here about a motion to suppress Mr. Allen's statements made while in DOC based on his environment and coercing these statements. Back to that, which should have been done. How can you admit these statements that were made under torture? According to the UN or the Geneva Conventions, what is considered torture as far as solitary? Had he not been in custody by the time these started, by the time these confessions started happening, especially the ones in April, May, and June, how long had he been in solitary? They should have been suppressed, but no, not with this judge. You know what the plan, the scam with this whole deal was? Alan goes down, and she made sure of it. And you've been watching these videos and listening to these calls. Uh, in the phone calls, you're hearing Mr. Allen's perspective on his circumstances. Oh, nice words, nice big words, nice big words that are all sanitary. These words sound so cleaned. And then you can also watch video of how he's being moved around and how he's being treated by the staff that appear in the video. Is that right? Correct. Yeah. I noticed you didn't use the word torture or coerce. Now, we've been advised that when he's moved, there's at least two people moving him and one person recording. And there are oftentimes other people present that are part of staff. Yeah, like Monakwala. I would say that as far as your statement about a minimum, I don't believe I've ever seen any less than that. There are times I believe when there are more. There have been times when Mr. Allen has maybe been less cooperative than others. So I think they had extra people in the area for that, but I'm not positive. When I refer to staff, I mean to include nursing staff, medical staff, those who should probably go together. But let me say Dr. Martin, maybe Dr. Wala. So you were able to observe many times where he makes incriminating statements in the presence of more than just a medical provider. Yes. And then there are instances when there's a medical visit. Correct. Has your observation of how he's treated by the staff that moves him indicated to you that there has been any sort of change from beginning till now? I would say in Westville, we're talking about, so from December of 22 to December of 23, when he was at Westville, was the staff treating him with respect and were they patient with? Remember, this is the exact time period that is bookending his absolute insane mental break. And here we go with the cocksucking of the DOC, right? Yes, the professionalism shown by the DOC is almost over the top. Oh, more so than what I've ever seen in a custodial facility. Frankly, I believe that due to the nature of Mr. Allen, whether people were told or they just assume, I think everybody knows that due care and professionalism also, these officers are not, yeah, threatening to kill his wife and his child. Right, right. Sounds good to me, right? They know that professionalism, due care, these officers are not stupid. They're being videotaped the whole time. They've got a camera in their face. So so they know. But yes, the patience and professionalism from the DOC is sometimes unbelievable given the circumstances that they deal with. Even when he's in a state of being covered with feces and needs a shower, and they're taking care of that in a respectful way to the extent that they can under the circumstance. Oh, they're absolutely perfect. Oh, they're the greatest. I mean, I want to live in the DOC. It's so grand. I tell you. Correct. So there's a period of time where confessions are being made. You've been reviewing some of those, correct? Correct. So if they are phone call to his wife or his mother, have you reviewed those? Yes, correct. They are during movement within the jail while he's being recorded by what they would call transport staff. Have you observed those? Yes. And some of those actually involve movement to a medical visit. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Is there any other category of observation you've been able to make with regard to confession statements? No. I believe just the telephone calls, the videos, and the movement videos, and then the movement videos to the medical, which again, I've seen most of, but I still have a few of those to go through. And then also noted that during the whole process, I've also been involved in what the suicide companion door sheets, the notes that were written there. So I would get with Investigator Mullen or Lieutenant Holman. I mean, Oh, it's impossible. It's impossible to achieve a conspiracy of this nature. Do you know what it would take? I would get with Investigator Mullen or Lieutenant Holman, and I would notify them, or they would notify me if they saw door sheets, something that looked pertinent, that was documented by either an inmate, suicide companion, or an officer as a result of those door sheets. Then I did follow up and conducted numerous interviews with Department of DOC officers or their statements that they recorded on those door sheets. And then you prepare reports on those as well, and those will be part of discovery. That's correct. Those reports were created, and the interviews were also recorded, transcribed, or I can I know most of them are. I hate to say all worse of it. Blah 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 blah. So in reviewing this volume of information from a perspective of phone calls and videos and suicide companion sheets, did you observe any external factors that introduced themselves in April that coincided with Mr. Allen starting to confess? One of the things that I was able to note, and you got to keep in mind, I'm somewhere between 650 and 670 total phone calls made by Richard Allen while he was being detained. Breaking that down into hours, we're somewhere in the 150 to 170 hours of just phone calls, not including video or anything else I've watched. So the volume of calls is immense. I feel like I've been able to pattern his conversations. Okay. Now listen, this is where we're getting into the real shit. Okay, so I know I've been blah, 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 getting through these pages, 8 pages, whatever. But this is where we're getting into real shit. So I feel I've been able to pattern his conversations and what's going on in his world just by the simple fact of the amount of time I've spent listening to the conversations. And one of the things I noticed was in early March that Mr. Allen began to become involved in reading a Bible. And as such, he proclaimed numerous times that on March 21st, 2023, he found Jesus Christ and found God. Some of that statement was followed up by some calls where Mr. Allen clearly believes that, he made statements he may be very likely not be with his family again in this lifetime. He was concerned and wanted to make sure that if when they were in heaven together, that when they went to heaven, he could go to heaven too. And it was interesting because that change of his demeanor really began to coincide with just several days later, the confession starting. And would he relate himself to the confessions to his finding God and being concerned about his future? I mean, beyond the world, heaven and hell? Yes. And he would have those conversations with Mrs. Allen and his mother. They all seemed to be very religious people, If they had conversations, and he had extensive conversations about, if things didn't go his way, then he wants to try to make sure, and oftentimes that he's not even sure with what he's done. You don't say. He's not sure what he's done. Yeah, you actually let that one slip. And the fact that he's found God is going to be enough to get him to heaven. When you say he's not sure what he's done, what do you mean by that? Well, that's sort of what he alludes to. He doesn't really go any further than that. He just talks about, I think he's mentioned sins. Oh, the sins that he's committed. Okay. But nothing specific as to a particular sin when he's talking about that. Okay. So you're assuming that the word sin means killing Abby Libby every time he says that? Mm-hmm. So he's never specifically admitted or said or alluded to the killing being the sin. He's just said sins several times. Okay, but you're calling every one of those a confession? Okay. Yeah, I see you. All right. So, all right. So, does he talk about the crimes he's charged with in this case? Yes. Okay. And does he talk about them with specificity? Yes. When yes, he has confessed and he has talked about these crimes very specifically. And are we talking about one time or multiple times? I tried to find a way to put it in numerical sense because there are varying degrees of what I believe is, there's some confessions where it's just, I did this and this. And there are some where you sort of dance around outside of it. But just direct confessions that I've been able to find, telephone calls, the videos, the door sheets, I'm 60 plus confessions at this point, and that's a conservative number without a doubt. Ah! Put the brakes on. No, I have a rhetorical question for you because this shows the bullshittery that these people are willing to participate in. If the prosecutor had 60 plus direct confessions to the killing of Abby and Libby with, how does he put it? Specificity. Don't you think that those would have been mentioned, every single one of them in trial? Do you honestly believe that there would be 60 plus direct confessions with specificity of the crime, but that they would only choose 3 or 4? Let's be real here. Let's be real. Okay, you're a prosecutor, quote unquote. You're trying to prosecute this guy, Richard Allen, for the horrific double murders of Abby and Libby, a world famous case, a phenomenon, a worldwide um, it's a legendary case, a case that has engrossed the world for 7 years. Worldwide attention on this case. So one of the absolute biggest cases in true crime. A sensation. Okay. If you had 60 plus direct confessions, which included specificity of a crime of this sort, don't you think you would have laid every one of those sons of bitches out? You would have had every one of those direct confessions with specificity. You would have had every one of those fuckers documented and presented as evidence in the trial. Or do you honestly think that you would just take 3 or 4 of them? I mean, come on, like, are we smoking crack here in this fucking YouTube universe? Are you taking 3 or 4 of the 60, or are you taking more like 50, 60 of the 60 plus? But let's back it up. because he says, so I believe I've been able to pattern his conversations and what's going on in his world, and 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 um and I don't really know how to put it in a numerical sense because there's varying degrees, and and there's some where you just sort of dance around outside of it, and you say things like sins and blah blah blah, but but from the direct, just the ones I've been able to found, without putting a numerical sense on it, I'm 60 plus. And the troll farm goes, they go wild, and the troll farm goes wild. 60 plus confessions, blah blah blah. Yeah, right, right. Fucking four at a maximum. Okay. And in the ones that are more specific, does Mr. Allen include details that only a person involved in the crime would potentially know? I believe that's correct. Yes. Oh, so what are those? Now we know, don't they? A van? Really? A van. Hmm. That was known about since 2017, right? Hmm. Let's see. Cutting the girls' throats. Yeah, that was known about since 2017, right? Okay. Hmm. A gun. That was talked about since 2017, right? Hmm. Sticks on the bodies. Oh, that was talked about since 2017, right? Hmm. Uh, is there anything that Richard Allen knew that was not known about since 2017 and discussed in this entire online community for 7 fucking years before Monica Waller read it and went over and fed it to him? So when you said that those are details that only the person committed the crime would know, that was not being honest with yourself or the jury. Is it proper to misrepresent the facts to a jury when you are the state and have the immense power of the state behind you, and you're throwing the entire power and the weight of the state on top of one man, and you're misrepresenting the truth to that jury? And does he ever talk about an obligation as a Christian to be honest, make things right? I don't recall exact phrasing. I'd be hesitant to say. Okay, does how is his confession to his family received? Generally, the first confessions were obviously Mrs. Allen and the mom were extremely upset. Rightfully so. I mean, it's difficult to listen. His conversation with them about it, because that's their husband, their son. Clearly, it's an extremely difficult time for them. And as the confessions went on, Janice, sorry, Richard's mother would say, they're messing with you. They're messing with your mind. Kathy would kind of reiterate the same thing. Often Kathy would tell him to stop talking. There were at least once, Mr. Allen was talking and she said, stop talking. And something along the lines of, I'm going to call Brad. And the call ended. So I don't know whether it ended on her end or his, but initially disbelief, shock, I would say. And then some of the confessions kind of went on over a period of time. It became a sort of change of subject. Stop talking about it. We're not talking about this. You don't know what you're saying. They're messing with your mind. That was the kind of direction it went after that. Yeah, no shit, right? No shit. Let's see. I think I'm losing my mind. I want to unalive myself. I feel like I'm living in hell. I want to protect you. I think I did it. I don't know. But you know what this was an attempt to do? This was an attempt to place guilt, shame, or blame onto the family for saying, you don't know what you're talking about. They're messing with your mind. Stop saying shit like that. Like we're gonna call the lawyers and someone needs to come talk to you. And keep in mind, these old fucking hags on Facebook, they're just fine with blaming Kathy Allen and the mother for having a part in this. Just like they're fine blaming Richard Allen with a zero evidence, complete lack of evidence. They're fine with that. And they're even fine with bringing down or with accusing Kathy Allen. I've seen so many attacks on Facebook directed at Kathy Allen. She knew, she hid him, she protected him. The hate is unbelievable. Is there a period of time that he doesn't communicate with family, either by choice or his? Well, before I continue, let me also, are we clear here that this period of time they were discussing is the exact period of time I told you is the issue here? March, April, May, June, July, 2023. What's bookend? Okay, what is bookended by December of 22, December of 23? What's right smack in the middle of that? The summer of 23? There have been periods of time where, for various reasons, he's gone an extended period by his standards of not communicating with the family. I think at one point his tablet broke, or he broke his tablet, so he had to wait to get another one. I think that maybe he lost his communication privileges for a while for some incident that happened at the department. I don't know what that would have been. But other than that, he's pretty consistent in calling. Is it correct that he is concerned over whether family will still love him if he committed the crimes? You see, do you get how it's a gaslight, how that shit is phrased? This is assuming, so this question is a statement. The way this is asked, this assumes that he's guilty. You understand that? Listen to the way it's stated. Let's do it again. Is there concern whether his family will still love him if he committed the crimes? Yeah, I would say that's probably his biggest concern over and over again. You know, no matter how this ends, will you still love me? Will you still be there? Extremely concerned about what happens as a result of this trial. You indicated that you reviewed or found a statement that you thought related to him having a conversation with Kathy about how this is impacting her, and that he would contact the police to make a statement. Can you share that with the court? In November, I think it might have been the second week of November in 2022, early on in his incarceration or his detention. Oh, you spoke correctly. You had to correct yourself there, right? Yeah, his incarceration in Westville. This is just weeks probably. He makes the statement that if this becomes too much for you, just let me know, and I'll tell the detectives and tell them everything they want to know. No, it's want to hear. Once he experiences his family not wanting to talk to him, is it sometime after that of not wanting to talk to him after he's confessed, does he cease or reduce the amount of statements he's making about confessing? Yes, I would say probably the bulk of confessions started in early April and probably continued until through June, maybe July. And after that, they really started to slow down as far as what I would consider the direct confessions. Yeah, April, May, June. And you could expand that to March, April, May, June, July. It's smack dab in the middle of his incarceration at Westville, which is what it was. There's always, we even still after that, we still have conversations about, will you love me? Will you, no matter what happens, no matter. There was a period of time he was extremely concerned about what the family was going to see during the trial. He was concerned about that, the things that were going to be said about him. And he was really concerned about the photos that they were going to see of what he was accused of. Right. How does any of that indicate guilt? Like, you see how they keep alluding to that means he must be guilty? I mean, it sounds to me like he's afraid of what they're going to see that he's accused of. Like, are you going to still love me if, they're going to show you pictures of dead kids and say that I did it? Are you going to love me no matter what? Like, you got my back no matter what? I'll tell them whatever they want me to say just to protect you. You know what I mean? But as long as are you going to love me no what? Because someone's standing over me. These over here with the Odin patches are threatening to kill you and my daughter. Now listen. Talk about another statement posed as a question. Like, this is how evil these motherfuckers are. Listen. In fact, he indicated that he didn't want them to see what he had done. Is that correct? That's correct. Really? He didn't want them to see what he had done. Oh, so you're assuming that he did what was done to those girls. Okay. Listen, if he actually made that statement, why was that not included in trial? Crickets. Because he didn't say, I don't want you to see what I've done. It was probably along the lines of, don't go to court. I don't want you to see that. I don't want you to see those pictures. But you see, who has all the power in this situation? And then he gets moved to Wabash Valley. And does he make any statement while at Wabash Valley that would be considered confessions? In February, he made a statement that was documented by a DOC guard. I don't have the report with me, but it was somewhere along the lines of talking to himself, and he apologized for maybe that's an important word. Maybe killing Abigail Williams. Maybe. I think I would feel comfortable. I would want to review my report and make sure that's correct, but that's the gist of it. Okay, would you recall a statement that he made to his mother in January in a recorded phone call that he wanted to tell the truth and be honest and just didn't want to hurt his family? I have heard those calls as far as the timeline. If you're telling me January, then I believe you, but I'm not completely sure on the timeline. But yeah, I've heard calls to that nature. Has he said those things in phone calls? Yes. Oh, really? Well, it seems like he had. It would have been mentioned in trial, right? You're trying to put him away for life. Okay, in your survey of all the information that you've described and in your interviews with officer companions that were logging his activities at Westville, did you ever learn any information that led you to believe that he was being coerced or induced to make incriminating statements? I did not. You see how that one's set up? I mean, this is like a vaudeville act here. Got you. One of the things that I really checked on during the interviews was, if the behavior between DOC personnel and Mr. Allen, and then also between DOC personnel, witnessed any other personnel having adverse interactions with Mr. Allen. And by far, the overwhelming consensus between the guards is they felt like he was treated way better than, I'm going to object. Speculation. Judge, officers are relaying their impressions, but overruled. Thank you. There's some references to Mr. Allen feeling tortured with regard to the defense's motion and memorandum. Has there been a reference to that in the materials you reviewed? Yes. Mr. Allen does state a lot that he feels he's being mentally tortured. All right, here's a nugget for your notebooks. Down at the bottom, line number 24 and 25. Mr. Allen does state a lot that he feels like he's being mentally tortured. And he's been pressed by family, are they hurting you? Are they making you? And as far as physical torture, he always says no. He believes that psychological mental torture is what they're doing. And he equates that to functions like it's loud in the prison at night to keep him awake. The lights are always on and it bothers him. And he correlates a lot of those activities with being a torture tactic that the DOC is using to mentally and psychologically affect him. Line 13. The guard shared with me that they believed Mr. Allen was receiving treatment that was above and beyond what the normal inmates at the facilities were receiving day in, day out. Really? 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 So you remember when Allen looked like he was at death's door? Let's see. He's at death's door. He tanked down 40 pounds, 45 pounds. He's gone into a multi-month psychological episode where he's being force medicated. He's hurting himself. He's wanting to kill himself. He doesn't know what's real. He's feeling like he's losing his mind. He's eating shit. He's banging head on the wall, all of that stuff. But according to the unbiased DOC guards, the ones with the Odin patches who threatened to kill him, his wife, and his daughter, they say he's getting treatment that's above and beyond what the normal inmates at the facilities were receiving. Really? I wonder what those normal inmate. It must be like Mr. Baston says, right? Like the guards with the Odin patches are a group of the good old boys called Odin, who John Gallipo was a leader of, who torture, abuse, and hurt inmates on a daily basis. And remember in his story that Monica Walla was sitting there, watched the whole fucking beat down. I don't know how to really phrase it other than it created almost a between the other inmates and Allen. I mean, it was noticeable enough that everybody like on the range would know that Mr. Allen was being treated different than the rest of them. Different in a better way? Yeah, different in a better way. Correct. And did any of the officers you interview relay the impressions that Mr. Allen was feigning or faking symptoms of psychosis to portray himself as crazy? Remember, this is the fucking ISP, Master Trooper, and the prosecutor. Yeah, I would ask each and every one what they thought of the antics that Mr. Allen was portraying. And without hesitation, Razi, Judge, I object. Can I ask a preliminary question? Yes. Are you communicating what some offender told you about their impression about Mr. Allen's psychiatric state? No, I'm making a statement about what a DOC officer told me he believed Mr. Allen was doing. Right, about the way he was acting, whether or not it was a legitimate psychiatric issue or whether he was faking it, right? That's correct. Okay, I object. Again, we're getting in a little far afield of the basic, hearsay admissibility rules. These people, those guards have no qualifications to draw conclusions about psychiatric circumstances. In addition to the fact that it's hearsay, I think it's beyond the, I'm objecting for that reason. Judge, I'll rephrase the question to ask if officers relayed to him that they felt he was faking when he was acting out during April and May. I think that in a position of a corrections officer at the DOC facility, that they would be in a position to give layperson's opinion about what they were observing. Well, but not as it relates to psychiatric symptoms. I would sustain objection on that. Yeah, you know why? Because you knew that both Monica Walla and her supervisor would confirm in trial that he was indeed undergoing a major psychotic episode. And see, there's no more question about that. You're not going to fuck around and try to bend on that one. You see what they were trying to do? So let me back that up and reread it again. I won't reread it again, but I'll just go back over it in this way. You see what they were trying to do? They were trying to head towards, he's faking it. And the inmates and guards believe so. You know, the inmates and guards think he's faking it, so he must be faking it. That's where they were trying to go with that. Okay, Detective Harshman, did you ask questions about Mr. Allen's behavior not being consistent during the period of time he was confessing? I did. Did they talk about him engaging in behavior described as bizarre? I'm going to object again, says Rozzy. I'm not even sure who she's talking about, like who these people are. She's just saying, did they? So there's not really indication of who. Officer companions. Who he's speaking with that's saying these things. Can you narrow it? Yeah. Were there specific instances that you were interviewing a particular officer companion who documented a confession that coincided with behavior that would be considered bizarre? Yes. Okay. And did the officer make any statement with you or to you regarding having an opinion about whether Mr. Allen was faking? Same objection. Overruled. Oh my God. Did you see what just happened there? She was faking the sustaining of that objection. Because what did she do in the end? She allowed them to make that statement. Faking. She basically allowed Miss Diener to insinuate that he's faking the mental illness. Watch it. Watch. Did any officer make any statement to you with regard to having an opinion about whether Mr. Allen was faking? Yes, they believed he was faking. Okay, and as you sit here today, you can't tell me specifically which officers told you that, correct? Because you don't have your notes in front of you, correct? Okay. Did more than one officer that was a door companion for Mr. Allen share that observation or opinion? I can tell you that I did check, and I interviewed a total of 10 of those officers. And going back in my reports, I'd be surprised if 8 out of the 10 didn't have the same feeling. Can you believe that? So he's allowed to sit his ass there and say 8 out of 10 officers thought he was faking it. When we know that's a complete fucking lie. It's irrelevant. He wasn't faking it. If he was faking it, he fooled 2 doctors, both of whom took the stand and said he wasn't faking it. In reviewing the documents you described, the door sheets, phone calls, video movement, did you ever find evidence that someone was interrogating Mr. Allen? Not once. Really? Okay, so he's faking it and he's not coerced. That's the whole point of this section, and they're using Harshman to put that across. He's faking it and he's being treated very fairly, better than all the inmates, and he's not coerced. And he confessed 60 plus times. with information only the killer would know. You see, well, let's continue. Then I'll say what I have to say. Let's see. Sorry about that. Hold a minute. Okay, so pardon me. What we're going to get to now is cross-examination real quickly. It's absolute. This is absolutely unbelievable, unbelievable. But but the troll farms are thoroughly convinced he's a kid killer, and all of you are the dark hearts. You're protecting a baby killer, supporting a kid killer. We're the bad guys here. Were you able to watch? So here's cross-exam by Razi. Were you able to watch some of the videos of the inmate companions sitting at the door? The videos I had access to did not have any inmate companions in them. They were the videos that were used by the personnel during movements. Now, if there was a companion caught in a frame when they were moving him, I would see a companion. I did not have like a hallway view. I had a cell view and then the views of the movement. So you had no idea what conversations were between the inmate companions and Mr. Allen, do you? No, that's correct. So from the very beginning, when Mr. Allen was incarcerated, there was a plan in place to monitor his communications, right? Yeah. And that plan involved getting in touch with GTL, getting access to the calls, right? Correct. All right. Making arrangements with the DOC to obtain video, in-cell video of Mr. Allen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? That was outside of my lane, wasn't my responsibility, but I did receive those after the fact. Yes. So we're going to skip ahead. So he's getting everything 24 fucking 7, right? 24/7. He's got everything, every single phone call, every video, everything, every text message, everything. Okay. So there's no privacy afforded to him in any respect when he's there, right? When he makes the call out, he's notified of that. Everything is monitored and recorded. Before he makes the call, even the folks like like Miss Allen and his mother are also notified on the recording. Hey, you're receiving a call from a correctional facility, and it's Ricky, and it says those calls are subject to monitoring and recording, and then the calls connect. Do you agree with me that there's no privacy afforded to him with regard to any of those calls because you knew everything he was saying basically the minute he said it, correct? I did not monitor in real time. It would have been after the call's completed. Okay, then I get notified. But there's no privacy. That's fair. And in fact, that would be the only way for Rick Allen to talk to his family about the circumstances surrounding his case, wouldn't it? Or through the attorneys. Well, but to talk to him directly about the case, he'd have to do it on the phone, right? Yeah, that's correct. The most important thing in his life, right? He's incarcerated facing accusations like these, right? Yeah. And he did talk about the case to his family. And he's not even able to do that without police listening. Is he? No. So there was a pretty involved process to make sure that all of this information funneled to you pretty quickly, wasn't there? I don't think quickly would be a fair statement because nothing seems to funnel to me, blah, 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 but I do receive it. Okay. Well, you just said a little while ago you were getting text message notifications. Well, I do get that when he's made a call. I'm talking about everything as a whole, the videos, etc. So if you're talking about the calls, yes, I'm notified of the calls after he's completed a call. You ever monitored another offender at the DOC like this? Yes, I have over the years several. Okay. Anybody that's been detained in the DOC awaiting trial for something they've not even been convicted of? No. Is this the first time you've ever been in a situation where you were surveilling someone in Rick Allen's circumstances? The only difference is because of the DOC. I mean, the county jails, yes, I monitor a county jail, somebody who's waiting trial. And you've never dealt with anybody up at the Westville Correctional Unit, have you? Inmate-wise? Yeah, in the maximum security unit. No, not an inmate, no. So when you're watching these videos of him, you're seeing something, you're seeing everything he's doing, aren't you? Correct. If he goes to the bathroom, you get to watch, don't you? Not exactly what I want to do all day, but yes, I do see it. I understand that, but that's just the reality of the environment he's living in, right? Yes. The DOC officers, from a professionalism standpoint, have been over the top, you said. That's my opinion, yes. Okay, you see the videos of DOC officers with their Odin patches on their chest? That's a win for Rossi there. That's a nice of you to get that one in, Rossi. I give credit where credit is due. Let's reread that. It's pretty entertaining. Okay, you see the videos of the DOC officers with their Odin patches on their chest? I have not seen any Odin patches on anybody's chest. And did you see the video? Strike that. Are you aware that there were officers up there with patches on their chest that said, "I hate people"? No, I've not been aware of those patches. No, no. Playing stupid. Okay, I'm just dumb. I'm playing dumb. I'm ignorant of all of the Odin. Okay, did you see a video of him being transported in to get a haircut where the DOC officer realized that he had something on his chest and he ripped it off his chest, a patch? I remember a couple of times for a haircut, I believe. I do not remember somebody ripping off a patch. No. Nor would I ever recall such a thing. Like, why would I admit to that? Okay, did anybody among law enforcement communicate any of that to you? At one point, obviously, there was talk about somebody having patches on at some point. Again, outside of my lane, so it was nothing I was involved in. So I don't I don't know anything. I know nothing. I know nothing about Odin. Know nothing about Odin patches. Nothing about the guards. Nothing about the questioning him, about threatening him and his family. I just know nothing. All I know is he confessed 60-something times. Okay. Well, you interviewed a bunch of guards, right? Yes. And as far as I know, none of them were involved in the patches. Did you ask them? Yes. Okay. And they all denied it? The ones you interviewed? Yes, they denied it. Not one of the guards you interviewed mentioned that they had anything to do with those patches or the Odinism associated with that? Correct. None of them mentioned it. No, nothing. You think there's anything unusual about an inmate that's in confinement turning to God as a way to deal with the circumstances of that confinement? No, I would imagine that the stresses associated with that confinement would lead people to probably try to, find God. Wait, hold up. I thought you testified at trial that there was no stresses to Richard Allen. Did we just read that? Wait up, go back. Fuck that. Wait. Did we just read that you said there's no stressors? I know I just read that. Top of the page. At this point, Harshman describes Allen's demeanor as subdued and that he believed he was not under stress. Okay, but no stressors. Okay, I get it. But there are stressors. I would imagine that stresses associated with confinement would lead people to try to find God. Oh, sounds like you admit that confinement would induce stress. But for some reason, when you took the stand, you didn't want to admit that in front of a jury. I see. Well, one of the only things that Rick had in his cell was a Bible, correct? I would say that's fair. I think he's got some magazines and some other stuff, but yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of stuff in his cell. Okay, and when they put him on close supervision, they even take his blanket from him, didn't they? I would say there's a reason for that. The answer is yes, right? The answer is yes, they take his blanket. So they strip him down to the bare essentials, right? That's outside my lane. That's how, these are decisions that I don't make. But yes, I mean, he would have less stuff in his cell, I guess. Yes. Oh. Right. Which you would be seeing in the video, that there's really nothing in there. No, it's not a lot in there. Yeah, and he also for long periods of time had to wear a kimono, didn't he? They call it a suicide smock, but yes, I did see those. You acknowledge he has said things to officers and companions about this offense that are inconsistent with what happened at the crime scene. Sounds like a bomb's coming. Sounds like a bomb's getting dropped. And I don't mean Uncle Fester over in the bathroom dropping a huge turd in the bowl. You acknowledge that he has said things to officers and companions about this offense that are inconsistent. Inconsistent, meaning wrong, false, don't add up, not something only the killer would know. About what happened at the crime scene? I did not say that. I don't believe. Okay. You ever hear him say that he shot 2 girls? That he shot them? Yeah, in the back. I don't know that I heard him say it. I don't. I understand what you're talking about, and I don't know. I don't know. I think that's something that I heard. That I don't know. That's something that I heard him say. I don't know if that came out of an interview from somebody or not. I would have to check and see. Bruh, you seriously gonna sit here and play fucking dumb on him saying he shot those girls? Are you really gonna fucking sit here and say that you don't fucking know that he got shit wrong? See, you're nitpicking. You're picking the 3 confessions that were actually had substance that were fed to him by allegedly by Dr. Monica Walla, including the knowledge of a van that was known for 7 years, a box cutter that was known for 7 years, and a fucking a gun being involved that was known for 7 years. But you don't want to admit that he says that he shot those girls in one of these 60 plus confessions. Dude, the bias this is so off the charts. I can't even. You ever hear him say he shot the 2 girls? He shot them. Have you ever look, it's a very clear question. You ever hear him say that he shot the 2 girls? That he shot them? Yeah, in the back. I don't know that I heard him say it. I don't. I understand what you're talking about, and I don't know. I think that's something I heard him say. I don't think that's something I heard him. I don't know if that came out of an interview from somebody or not. I would have to check and see. I just don't know. That sounds like something you've heard during the course of your investigation, right? I've heard that somewhere. And he there's a word that starts with the M that I don't want to repeat. I don't want to repeat this for the algorithm, but it starts with the M and it has to do with SA. Okay. And that it's Spanish for bother. And he bothered them, right? Sexually. That I don't know. Sorry. Do you agree that a lot of the things he said occurred, almost all of them? I think you said in April. You said maybe into July. The abundance, yes. And the majority of those statements are what I would consider, I'm going to use a phrase, generic, where he's saying, I killed Abigail Williams, I killed Liberty German, or I killed those girls, right? I object to the form of a question. It's a cross-examination. Overruled. Thank you. There were some statements along with others. Did you hear him early on in his period of incarceration from December or November professing his innocence? Yes, he has professed his innocence. Did you hear him doing it again in July, August, September, October, to the end of his stay at Westville? Well, let's just say 5-6 months that he was there. It would vary. There were times where he professes his innocence, and then he'll follow it up with, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not a direct confession. It'll be, something along the lines of an excuse for why he said what he said. So he'll go back to it. But I mean, yes, he's confessed his guilt and he's tried to confess his innocence. You see, this is called someone who doesn't want to admit the bare ass truth, right? So let me pull this down. So the real substance of this, the bottom line is that he's equally and even more times said that he's innocent and professed his innocence. He's equally or more times confessed to things that are inaccurate and wrong about the crime. Okay? All that Harshman wanted were to pick and choose only the times he said he killed the girls. Ignore everything. Ignore the multiple times he said he was innocent, he didn't do it. Ignore the multiple times he said that shit happened that didn't happen. Ignore all that. Only pick and choose the times that he said he killed the girls. Those handful of times. Oh yeah, he's going to pick and choose those. And he's going to call it 60 plus on top of that. Because, he's treated very well. He's treated extraordinarily at Westville by the Odinist guards. But see, he doesn't want to admit it. There are times where he professes his innocence, and then he'll follow it up with, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not a direct confession. It'll be something in the lines of an excuse for why he said what he said, and so he'll go back to it. I mean, he's confessed his guilt, and he's tried to confess his innocence. Jesus Christ, man. Well, he might say, well, they say I confessed. Like he might make a reference to that in a phone call. Is that something you've heard fairly routinely? Yes, but I don't consider that a confession. Yeah, but he's referencing these statements that occurred in April, May, and June, right? Correct. And that is part of the discussion even into the recent past, right? Phone calls? I'm sorry, I just want to. So he's saying he said those things more recently in phone calls, right? Even since he's been at Wabash. He says that he goes back and he talks about the time he made the confessions now. Right. He's making references about the past and using the word confessed or confession, right? Well, he'll say, they say I confessed. If I confess, then convict me and send me to jail so we can get this over with. He'll attribute things like that. He'll say, if I confess, then whatever. They say I confess whatever. All right. Think about a guilty person versus innocent. A person who was undergoing a psychotic break versus a person speaking with clarity of mind and all their senses. He'll say, and this is more recently, he'll say, well, they say I confessed. If I confess, then convict me. Send me to jail so we can get this over with. If I confess, then whatever. They say I confess, whatever. What does that sound like? What does that sound like? There's more. There's more. Watch. In November of 2022, you told Ms. Diener that he was suggesting to Kathy that, quote, if they want me to just do an interview with police, I'll do that. Yeah, he was fine with that, right? Yes, he made the statement, if this gets to be, now listen to this. This is interesting. If this gets to be too much, go to the investigators and tell them, I'll talk to them. I'll tell them everything they want to know. Okay. Kind of taking a chivalrous approach to his wife with this situation, right? Yeah, I mean, that's a good assumption. I mean, I don't really know what his motivation was. Okay. So you don't have any training in the field of psychiatry, right? I do not. So you don't have any opinion about the impact of this long-term solitary confinement would have on his mental state, do you? No, not based on not based on education or degree. No. We got to back that one up because that one's badass. Okay, listen. So you don't have any opinion about the impact that this long-term solitary confinement would have on his mental state, do you? No. But then look how he gaslights. Not based on an education or a degree. No. See, he can't even admit that he has no educated opinion on the impact of long-term solitary confinement on his mental state. He refuses to even admit that. So basically, what's going on here is the absolute insanity of anyone who believes that this Richard Allen is guilty of these murdering of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. It's absolute insanity. He needs a new trial. Bottom line, he needs a new trial. This was completely unhinged. What happened to him, and as I said, this has been so important because bring yourself back to that juror interview, okay? Bring yourself back to that and what she said about how, yeah, you had people like Sarah Carbaugh who they ignored because it was unhinged, unbelievable. She was untrustworthy, and it just didn't make sense. She even admitted that this bullet was disregarded because it was BS, and it was adequately or successfully countered by the defense's expert on ballistics. And you know that. All of you know that. But how anyone in their right mind can look at the totality of this and come away with the conclusion that Richard Allen is absolutely guilty, you really got to question their sanity and their motivations. And remember, that was contrasted. You know, this Brian Harshman ended up coming across as professional, trustworthy. Just think about it. Okay, all this insanity I just presented to you for the past 2.5 hours. Insanity, absolute insanity. All of this that I just have been through came across to those jurors as professional, credible, respectable. And remember, you got a cop up there looking like a very respectable, serious, amazing cop. And they trusted him. But going back, just to close it out, I want to go back and beat the shit out of 2 points here. Well, I would say in actuality, it's just 1 point. And I'm going to quote it like this from the Frank's Memorandum, page 122, for all of you awesome folks out there. From the Max Baker affidavit, Exhibit 115. During one memorable visit, during one memorable visit on May 4th, 2023. Now stop right there. Put your fucking big boy drawers on. Pay attention to the dates. May 4th. May 4th, 2023. Pay attention to that fucking date. Remember, I said April, May, June, right? May 4th, 2023. Max Baker, Andy Baldwin, and Brad Rozzi met with Richard Allen to discuss matters involving the case at Westville. At this time, Richard Allen was in a mental and physical state of deterioration and was nearly non-communicative. You remember that photo of Richard Allen looking like death's door? That was taken this day that I'm reading you about. During this visit, Richard Allen repeatedly asked whether or not his wife was okay and if his family was okay. He claimed on a couple of occasions that, quote, they were going to kill him. When asked who he was referring to as they, Richard Allen responded by saying, the guys with the Odin patches. Up to this point in the legal process, Richard Allen's defense team had never mentioned Odinism or Odinist to Richard Allen, either directly or indirectly. The first time I'm aware of any mention of Odinist involvement to Richard Allen was during a visit on August 25th, 2023, when Kathy Allen attended, and a discussion occurred between attorney and client regarding the ties to the crime scene. There's another. It says this. This is an excerpt from, what's his name? The November 23rd letter of Robert Baston. Robert says, the corrupt Westville Correctional Facility warden, John Gallipo, does not allow a Christian Amish church group called Christmas Behind Bars to pass out Christmas sacks to inmates because Warden Gallipo is the leader here of a pagan white nationalist group called Odin. Do you think he's fucking tripping? The corrupt staff and officers here at Westville Correctional Facility and at other Indiana Department correctional facilities wear Odin and Punisher patches. Pagan white nationalist. Those who wear the Punisher and Odin patches is a group of good old boys who assault, torture, abuse, and mistreat inmates. I submitted an IDOC grievance to the IDOC Office of Investigations and Intelligence concerning the Odin and Punisher patches, but the grievance never got processed due to the corruption. And finally, in closing, I want to read this. This is you guys are going to love this one. I almost feel like I should share it on the screen. It's from the it's from today. It's an article from today in the hometownnews.com. Hometownnews.com. It's called Seeking Job Back in Lawsuit by Stan Maddox. LaPorte County, Indiana. The former warden of the Indiana Department of Corrections Girls Juvenile Facility near LaPorte is suing the state and trying to regain his job. John Gallipo was named by the DOC as a correctional executive in the year 2019 for his work on instituting modern correctional reform practices, which focused on tough love and belief in rehabilitation, along with second chances. They were featured in the Netflix series Girls Incarcerated. According to the lawsuit filed in LaPorte Superior Court 2, it's alleged that Gallipo was terminated without due process. He's seeking a return to his position, along with back pay from the time he was fired in early August. His attorney, Sean Friedman of LaPorte, said paperwork violations tied to a state-owned vehicle along with time card issues were cited to cover up what appears to be a termination driven by internal politics within the department. Yeah, they fired your ass because it's a horrible fucking look for the IDOC of Indiana in terms of what happened to Richard Allen, how he looked, and the controversy over you allowing those patches. Okay, so let's be clear here. Just like Monica Walla, you were fucking cut. The ties were severed for good cause. Okay, you and Monica Walla are the absolute worst fucking look for the state of Indiana. That could be. Okay, so they made sure to wash their hands of you and of her. There's a bloodbath in the wake of the Delphi murders. Okay, this is a total fucking shitstorm, and I hope it continues to flow through that state, and that people keep getting bagged, canned, whatever you want to call it. It's absolutely unbelievable that all of these things that have happened in this case, Monica Walla doesn't ever need to treat another single fucking patient in her life. I'm sorry. John Gallipo doesn't ever need to supervise another facility in his life. I'm sorry. So yeah, they cited something about paperwork with the state-owned vehicle and a time card. Yeah, they cited that to get rid of your ass and wash their hands of you. Same thing with Monica Walla. The last thing the state of Indiana needs is people like you making it look worse. I mean, it was completely obvious that there's malpractice, and you're at the center of it. So you're going to sue the state? Well, good luck with that. Good luck with that, because all of that discovery is going to be publicly. Eventually, we'll all have it. I hope it goes to trial, Mr. Gallipo, because we want those records, okay? We want to see it all. Same with Monica Walla. And in my opinion, this bloodbath is not over. This shitstorm is not over. I hope I hope and I pray that this hurricane, a tornado, whatever you want to call it, of shit, this storm keeps flowing through that state, and that more people keep falling victim, because I want to go back and I want to look and I want to see all of it, because there's a lot more who are going to be in the fallout of this Delphi murders case against Richard Allen than just John Gallipo and Monica Walla. And there should be. There should be. There really should. So let's see. So for those of you who care, this is here. All right. It's called Hometown News. There you go. Hometownnews.com. It's called Seeking Job Back in Lawsuit. Okay. Former warden. So you want to go check that one out. I'm trying to find one more thing to go out on a high note, low note. But this is what we're dealing with in Indiana with this whole thing. And they said, Prof, you've watched so focused on Indiana. There's murders all around. I worry about other stuff. Well, how can I let this one go? You want to let this one go? How about let this be dealt with? How about this? Let's stop the threats. Why do I have these douchebag fucking YouTubers, right, constantly threatening me? Oh, you're going to sue me? You're going to call the cops on me? You're going to, why? Because I speak? Come on. You know, when you motherfuckers stop your bullshit, I'll stop talking. It's simple as that. I've told you the truth before. The reason that I stayed on was because of the fucking troll farm. Because you came after me, you came after my kids, you come after my livelihood, my parents. You came after me with all you had, just like you've done Rick Snake and you've done all kind of other people on this case. Okay, you keep coming after us. We're going to make sure to stick around until you shut the F up. And so that's where you are now. You fucked up. So we ain't going nowhere. If you want us to go somewhere, then straighten your shit out, stop your shit, and clean up the mess. And then we'll all happily go away. None of us want to be here covering this tragedy, this travesty. It's the last thing we want to be talking about. Anyway, I was so glad that we got to handle this observation into Harshman. And like I said, we're going to do it again because it's worth going back over. Tonight was, I guess, our first installment here of looking at Harshman and how they tried to do it. And like I said, you have to keep in mind the effect that it had on the jury. It had a great effect. This guy was the deciding factor. No matter what you think, your theory, everyone's got their theories. I'm telling you, this guy was the deciding factor for the jury. And like I said, just imagine the mess that we've just been through the past 2 hours, and to think that was the most respectable and trustworthy. How does she say? Professionalism. It was that it had the most impact on the jury. This bullshit we just heard. That's unbelievable. Anyway, I can't find that photo I'm looking for. Happens that way. Oh, there it is. There it is, right there. You know this one. That's what I'm saying. This was the day. Is my wife alive? Is my wife okay? Is my family alive? Is my family okay? They're going to kill me. Who's going to kill you? The guys with the Odin patches. And that is the shit testimony of Brian Harshman. So let me see. Looks like we got some chats to thank. I want to thank Queen of the Green. Queen of the Green. Pardon me, I'm losing my voice now. Queen of the Green. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for all you do, Prof. Thank you for being here, Queen of the Green. Mark Ellis, always finding the truth, Prof. Thank you, Mark Ellis, for the super chat. Thank you very much for supporting the show. And 26 dead zombies, dude. There aren't many YouTubes that will stay on this. We can't quit. Thank you, 26 dead zombies. All right. I'm just looking over the chat here. Thank you, Court of Public Opinion. Yeah, I see a lot of good chat. I can't really go through and read it. My voice is dropping. But I guess what I want to say is think about what we just heard, right? Remove this. Think about what we just heard. Imagine how small of a slice of the Delphi shit show that was. Remember just Friday, I believe, or maybe it was Thursday. The days run together. But very recently, last week, we had the motion to correct error as well as the motion to introduce newly discovered evidence or to preserve. I'm sorry, to preserve. Let me look at those so I can name them properly because I'm telling my my throat is going. I don't need to look at it. Remember what we did. We looked at Brad Weber, the van being wrong, right? The whole timeline with that van. Listen, the camera's not off. The camera's not off. That's the same thing. They're going to try to go with that one. No. There's other ways to confirm the timestamp. The FBI's ping is not off, okay? The whole Weber timeline is BS. The whole deal with the van was BS. In there was a mention of how, according to the word on the street back in the day, when it came to Ron Logan, the whole concept of a box cutter was being discussed. So this whole deal with box cutter that our pathologist or whoever he fucking was magically came up with after meeting with the prosecutor several times. He magically produced the concept of box cutter because Monica Walla was able to get Richard Allen to say box cutter. Well, what happened? We now know that concept has been out there when it came to Ron Logan. Box cutter. What else was in that thing? Geez, I almost have to look at it and remember all the points. It's bad stuff. It's really, really bad. It's really bad. And the thing is, like, I'm not over here wanting it to be bad. Yeah, I had this discussion with someone today. You think I want this to fucking be this bad? I've said so many times that the very first day I heard Richard Allen was arrested, I was elated because I thought, finally, they got Preach Guy. They got someone. No. The truth cannot be that convenient. It's all crashed down around us, right? And remember, Brian Harshman was able to sit his ass up there and literally willy-nilly give his opinion that the voice of that you hear saying down the hill, that's Richard Allen's voice. He was the one. Yeah, thank you, Diana. That's what I'm saying. The hearing was without representation. Okay, that's called the safekeeping proceeding on November 3rd was a critical stage. He was without representation, although he had retained counsel. Okay, we got that one in there. We got the Weber in there. We got the Ron fucking Logan with the box cutter as a thing. Then we got the Stacey Eldridge, the double down, right? Stacey Eldridge proves that there is a major problem in the timeline. Major, like severe problem in the timeline. Somebody's handling the phone at 5 something p.m., at 10 something p.m. Who's handling the phone? And I'd almost wager to say at 4:33 a.m. That's maybe 3 times. That's 3 potential times someone is handling that victim's phone. But back to Harshman. He was allowed to willy-nilly speculate as to whose voice is saying down the hill and that it's Richard Allen. It's wrong. It's really wrong. Like being able to say that he believes there's all these multiple confessions. All he should have been able to say is, look, I listened to 700 phone calls, and out of the 700 phone calls, I ended up with 3 confessions. And they were all during this time when he was undergoing a severe medical issue. He should have been allowed to say that. But he gets up there with the entire weight of the Indiana State Police behind him. He's allowed to sit up there and speak for the Indiana State Police and say that voice belongs to Richard Allen. Speculation should have never been allowed. I mean, listen, isn't it odd that not one of these alleged witnesses could sit their asses up there and say, no, the guy I saw that day, the guy I saw out there, yeah, that's him right there. That's Richard Allen. He's the guy I saw that day. Not one of them. They couldn't even say that that's who they intended to represent in the sketches. Teresa Liebert couldn't even say that she saw. Now, she said she saw somebody in her mailbox, but she couldn't say it was Richard Allen. So tell me why the only person that could point a fucking finger at Richard Allen was a cop doing it by speculation. Oh, it's Richard Allen. I'm a voice expert suddenly. Remember, nothing on his clothes, so it doesn't matter if he was dressed like Bridge Guy. No proof that he was even there at that time, right? Because Dan Doolin magically deleted or tore up or shredded or whatever his notes and his recording. No confirmation of anything with Monica Walla because she magically shredded hers as well. No confirmation on the Kathy Shank tip because that's a magical fucking situation as well. Magically appearing in a box just for her to find. Perfect timing. Not one shred of anything on those clothes that they say match Bridge Guy that he was supposed to have been wearing. And even worse, not one shred of him on those victims. But there is male DNA and there's female DNA. Oh, those victims are full of DNA. but not Richard Allen's. So you can't prove he was there when, you can't prove the timeline. You can't prove he was there at the scene. The bullet, that was discount. Even the jury couldn't buy that shit. Sarah Carbaugh's lying ass, no, they couldn't buy that shit. Even the jury had a little sense. That's why I'm saying he needs a new trial. I mean, there's no other option, really. I mean, the only other option is you let the guy rot. Okay? You let the guy rot the rest of his life in there with this sort of shit show being the reason that he's in there. So either you let him rot in there and don't give a fuck, and he's just another victim of the system, or you have another trial, and you actually prove that he was a part of these murders or he wasn't. And I'm serious. It's just there's no arguing it anymore, because they used to try to argue it a year ago and call us crazy and intimidate us, dox us, threaten to kill us, threaten to come to our house, threaten to kill our kids, put our families online, put pictures of my mom and dad and all this, pictures of my house. Look, no matter all that shit, here's the deal at this point. Anyone who tells you they are absolutely convinced that he's the killer has a serious fucking mental problem. Serious. Because you tell me, what would convince you about Richard Allen being involved in these murders whatsoever? If you have a tenth of the information, there's no way that you can determine that he's guilty of these murders. Not even with just a tenth. Much less if you know all of this. Everyone you see saying that with a YouTube channel or with a fucking Facebook account or with a Reddit account or on Twitter, they're all fucking shills. They're lying. They're bootlicking. They're trying to get some sort of clout by kissing the cop's ass, even if the cops ain't got shit to prove that he did this. And look, like I said, I wanted him to be guilty too. All you fucking old ladies, you idiots out there and shit. Look, I wanted him to be guilty too, because I wanted justice for Abby and Libby too. I wanted Bridge Guy caught too. But I mean, eventually common sense prevails. You look at the evidence or lack thereof and you say, like, hold on, there ain't none of this saying that he's guilty of this crime. I mean, as much as I want it, look, convicting the wrong person is not justice for Libby and Abby, and it's just the bottom line. Even if you convict the right person without evidence, like, where's the fucking evidence on this guy? Hey, he could have been involved, maybe so, but it hasn't been proven. He could be the right guy, but goddamn, how do you fucking know? I mean, you guys are insane. Like, any of you who are supportive of that, you don't deserve to be an American citizen. It's the opposite of what Doug Carter says. Doug Carter says go somewhere else. No, it's the opposite. If you believe with the guillotine based on accusations, you probably don't belong in America. That's not the way it's done here. You know, we're supposed to be convicted as a result of evidence, not railroading, not the exclusion of evidence, not the obstructing of any sort of evidence, or the fucking gaslighting. You're supposed to be convicted beyond a reasonable doubt by a jury of your peers based on evidence, even if the evidence is not beneficial to the prosecution. But no, that's not how it worked here. That's not it. Look, guilty. Allen was considered guilty before proven guilty. Okay, the way he was incarcerated at Westville was because they thought he was guilty. Look, if you think I'm full of shit, remember I showed you the text messages from Judge Gold's assistant. Well, it's actually from Fig Solves to Skip Jansen. And what it's doing is referencing Judge Gold's assistant. It says, I talked to someone, the judge's assistant, someone who works in the judge's office, Jody Williams. And she says she's seen all the evidence and he's guilty of sin or guilty as sin. God, I almost want to get it and put it on the screen for you. Do I even have that ready to go? Shit. That's worth putting on the screen for you. And I think I'll do that before we leave, because if you think this judge had not already determined, listen, what do you think the judge and her assistant do all day? I mean, do you think they don't talk? They don't share personal opinions and ideas? Do you think it's strictly business, and that the judge would not be reflective of that the assistant would not be reflective of what the judge is thinking and saying? That they're not talking behind the scenes? Let me see if I can find that for you, because it's so worth it. It is so worth it. For real. It is so worth putting on the screen. I'm going to take the second to do it. See if I can find if I can get my hands on this. Because this conversation, it's all you really need to know. Let's see. I'll do this and this. We've already presented this. Skip's been through this. It's not like it's anything new, but I think it should drive the point home. Okay? It should let you know that this shit is a serious fucking issue. Look, where is it? Oh, I've lost it again? Oh, come on. Is that it? Jeez, I don't know what all that is. Maybe it's this one. There it is. There it is. Sorry, I got to do it. I got to do it before we get off here, because like it's important. Judge is releasing some documents next week, a considerable amount per my source. Is this from McClellan? No, a person who works for Judge Gull. Also, this person who works for Judge Gull, this is Jody Williams. Whenever I say my source, I'm talking about this person. She has seen all the docs. She says Richard Allen is guilty as sin. She's 100% sure and wants harsh punishment to happen to him. She was saying how she hopes Judge Gull keeps him in Westville because that's where he belongs. I mean, bro, do you need anything else? Let me back it up for the retards. A person who works for Judge Gull, see right in the middle, a person who works for Judge Gull, my source, has seen all the docs. She says Richard Allen is guilty as sin. She's 100% sure and wants harsh punishment. She was saying how she hopes Judge Gull keeps him in Westville because that's where he belongs. I mean, dude, this is look, what is the point you're making? Think of this. Who works in the office? The judge and her assistant. 8 hours a day. What the fuck do you think they do? Chit chat, sit and talk, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Don't you think that assistant is going to be reflective of what Judge Gull thinks? Of the convert? Don't you think she's reflecting what goes on in those chambers behind the scenes? Well, what is she reflecting to Fig solves? She's reflecting that he's guilty as sin, wants harsh punishment, and wants him to remain in Westville because that's where he belongs. I mean, there's no fucking ambiguity here. That's what the judge thinks. You know my source, the one that works for the judge? She said the version of PCA release was 2.0. The 1.0 was even more embarrassing for law enforcement. I'll ask Nick. You see? I hope my judge source will get access to the documents again. She said she would need approval from the judge. I don't want to get her in trouble. You know why that judge acted unhinged and biased? Because that's what her thoughts are. Okay. She thinks he's guilty of sin. She wants a harsh punishment for him. He's in Westville because that's where he belongs. And so that's why she acted like a complete unhinged fucking maniac. And see, here's a problem. You watch the interviews with Baldwin and Rozzi, they can't say it. There's rules of ethical conduct. Baldwin and Rozzi can't go out there and Miss Auger, they can't go out and do these interviews and say things about the judge. They can't criticize the judge. But I'm telling you right now, it was already decided. They decided he was guilty for killing Abby and Libby, and he was going to burn. That's why he was put in Westville, which is why they got the confessions, which is why Harshman was able to sit on the stand with the entire weight of the state of Indiana behind him and convince a jury that Richard Allen's guilty. And because the judge made sure to exclude all other possible perpetrators, they had no other choice. Their tunnel vision was focused exclusively on Allen. They felt they had to convict someone because someone had to pay. And if they didn't convict him, then Abby and William were never going to get justice. So what they did, they made sure that he was the only choice to make. They did it how they did it. Harshman got on the stand. He threw around the weight of the state police and pointed the finger directly at Richard Allen. It's his voice, and he's guilty, and he confessed 60 plus times, even though it was only 3. March, April, May, June, July. And that's why we are where we are. And this is why I say there's 2 things should probably be happening. One, there needs to be another trial for Richard Allen, and not by this judge and not by this prosecutor. We need a special prosecutor, a special judge, another trial, okay? And I believe that some higher authorities should probably come down, just like they came down on Gallipo and Monica Walla. They should probably come down on this prosecutor and this judge and her assistant and the state police. There needs to be some sort of oversight, not internal reviews. Okay, something got to happen because the way this shit went down, you all know it's not correct. If it was correct, we wouldn't be talking about it. There would be a small minority bitching about it, refusing to accept reality and truth and all that. But it's not what it is. That's how the troll farm wants to paint us. But that's not how it is. And it's a damn shame. And you know what? Let me say one more thing. All of this threatening me and that type of shit. Let me see if I can pull it up. Is this it here? I'll do it at another time. Never mind. I'll leave that for another time. But I'll say this. Remember the 2-pounder? Todd Rokita, the Attorney General of Indiana, received that 2-pounder quite a while ago. What you just saw is included in that 2-pounder, which means Todd Rokita has all the evidence he needs to get the ball rolling. So let's put that back on the screen. Okay, this is the screenshot of screenshots, right? So when that 2-pounder went into Todd Rokita, it included this. He's had it for quite a long time. 1.7 pounds to be technically accurate. Todd Rokita has every right to take a look at this, because if this judge had already decided with her assistant that he was guilty as sin 100% and that he needs to be in Westville because that's where he belongs. And remember, this is well before, dude, this is well before trial. And no, it's not faked. It's not faked. And the funny thing about that, it's still on Skip's phone. It's not faked, which means it can be subpoenaed. It can be extracted. It can be proven to be authentic. It ain't fake. And if you think I'm fucking joking, well, maybe subpoena Skip. So I guess that's it for our Monday night. I guess I got a burst of energy halfway through there, just a sheer anger. So oh, Prof, just because the judge's assistant says that doesn't mean that the judge feels that way. All right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Work together 24 hours a day or whatever. 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, however fucking many hours you spend in that office together, you know, little conversations are had. You're going to feel the same. So good luck trying to distance yourself from that. But hey, that's the Delphi. That's Delphi for you. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for being here supporting the channel. Also, if you're on the replay, please hit the like, leave some comments down below. I'm so upset and sorry that you missed the live chat, because the live chat is good. It's cool. It's where people like to talk. And I hope that maybe next time you will be able to join the live chat. But please support the channel as well. Please, someone send me Cash Apps. Okay, I got Cash App tagged in the channel. I love my Cash App. So please send the Cash Apps if you want to support the channel. There's also a little buy me a coffee. You can please send that, and also any other ways you like to support the channel. Please support the channel. I love when you support the channel. It keeps me going, and it's enabled me to focus a lot on this, which has been really beneficial the past few months in preparing for trial and throughout and now. So I do appreciate all the support and all of the nice comments that you leave on a regular basis. Anyway, thanks for being here. Hope to be back very soon. And yeah, what can I say? Pray for each other. Pray for us up here in YouTube, especially me and Rick and Joe Lewis and Noe and all of us. Please pray for us. Pray for yourselves. Pray for Abby and Libby. And hey, man, just pray for all. I would say it like this. Pray for the world. We all need it. Anyway, Dark Hearts, See you guys later. Hide your kids. Hide your wife. Anyway, they raping everybody out here. That's how it goes. We'll see y'all later. And I'm out. I'm bringing you out with that canned music from StreamYard's Greatest Hits. So enjoy it on the way out. All right. Good night, everyone.